Every single night, he used to dream of escaping his boring reality. He wanted so much to get isekai'd into a fantasy world, and he was willing to search all corners of the world in order to find it. And then, one day, his prayer was answered. But this was not the dream he wanted. This was a nightmare. He was reborn as a barbarian named Kettle, in a frozen hell called the White Wasteland, filled to the brim with all kinds of overpowered monsters. And for years, he's been trapped in this icy prison by a mysterious system, its message always the same, quest incomplete. Well, today is just a typical Tuesday in the White Wasteland. A girl with long white hair stomps down, crushing a giant scorpion monster. Another warrior grabs one of the scorpion's arms and completely rips it away with a loud roar. Then, our main character approaches calmly. In a flash of purple light, he effortlessly slashes the monster into pieces. He looks on at his screaming comrade, completely unimpressed, muttering, "Only barbarians would be proud of being so ignorant. He's clearly had enough of these brutes." The girl pops up and asks, "What's ignorant? Can you eat it?" Before he can even answer, the other two start chomping down on the foul, stringy green meat like it's a 5-star meal. What is wrong with these people? He's in total disbelief. "Didn't I literally just tell you that thing would kill you if you ate it? It's been less than a week, and here you are again," he growls, looking like he's about to lose it. The girl and the bald dude give a proud thumbs up. It was a most noble challenge. Suddenly, the bald guy's face freezes. He starts convulsing and foaming at the mouth. He collapses, and a torrent of green bile erupts from his mouth. The girl can only scream in horror. She panics, slapping him over and over. Watching this whole disaster unfold, Kettle just looks away. Man, this really wasn't the life he wanted. He needs a break. Meanwhile, somewhere in the wasteland is a group of mercenaries. One is whining about the cold. Another one complains that crossing the wasteland is a suicide mission, no matter the paycheck. The captain just shuts him down. "You all knew what you signed up for, didn't you?" "Yeah, but we didn't know it would be this bad," the merc shoots back, shivering. Inside the warm carriage, an old butler listens to their bickering, totally unimpressed. He clears his throat and turns to his passenger, asking, "Are you all right, my lady?" A beautiful woman with blue hair, Melina Akasha, just smiles back. "Yes, I am fine." Hearing more complaints from outside, the butler scoffs. How rude. But Melina is kinder. She says, "Don't be so harsh. They're the only ones who would take this job." She looks out with concern. "Shouldn't we let them inside? They look like they're freezing." "No," the butler says firmly. "My lady, you forget the legends of this place." Melina goes quiet. "The monsters, you mean?" The butler shakes his head. "Worse. Do you remember the story of the Emperor, the only person to ever return alive from this frozen hell?" He rambled like a madman about all the monsters he'd seen, from giant serpents to earthquake-causing bears. But his final, desperate warning was this. The true danger wasn't the monsters, it was the barbarians. The butler just dismisses it. It's only a legend, of course. But Melina isn't so sure. Many of the monsters he described were later proven to be real. And yet, the butler laughs, no one has ever actually seen a barbarian. Melina has to admit he has a point. That is true. Suddenly, the mercenary captain yells out, "Everyone, halt." "There's something out there," he says, his partner asking what he sees. They squint into the blizzard at a lone figure. "I can't make it out." The captain's eyes widen. "I've got good news and bad news," he says grimly. "Just spit it out. Just spit it out," another merc yells. The captain replies, "The good news is, it's small. The bad news, it's heading right for us. Seats, it's heading right for us." Instantly, everyone is on high alert, staring into the storm with fear and confusion. The captain draws his sword, his face tense as the figure gets closer and closer. He can finally see it clearly. It's not a monster. Is that a person? The man keeps walking, his white hair blowing and his bare chest showing off a warrior's build. It's Kettle. He stops, and his glowing purple eyes stare them down. The mercenaries snap to attention, completely stunned as the man approaches. They can't believe it. A barbarian, just like the legends, and his eyes are glowing with menacing purple light. But dude just smirks, saying he got bored of his own people and went for a stroll. And what you know, he finds outsiders in the snow. Lucky him. He flashes a charming smile and introduces himself. He is Kettle, the Ashen Barbarian. "Didn't expect to bump into anyone out here. I'm pleased to meet you." Kettle sizes them up, asking if they're merchants with hired muscle. He offers some friendly advice. Turn back now, but he already knows they won't listen. Then, his eyes drift over to the carriage. He knows someone's inside. The captain starts to panic, but Kettle just grins and makes a shocking offer. "I'd like you to hire me." The mercs are floored. Kettle clarifies that he wants to be their guide through this wasteland. The captain cautiously asks if he is an enemy. Kettle's response is absolutely chilling. "If I were," he smirks, "you would all be dead by now." The threat hangs in the air, leaving the guards pale and totally speechless. The leader knocks on the carriage and asks his lady if she heard all that. Melina says she heard everything. The butler's wondering what's going on. The captain relays Kettle's offer to be hired, leaving the final decision up to her. She asks the most important question. What would happen if we tried to fight him? Looking at the imposing barbarian, the captain gives his honest assessment. "I would not recommend it." After a tense pause, Melina makes her call. "Understood. Tell him we accept his offer." The captain walks back to Kettle and delivers the news. She agreed. Kettle's eye glows as a sly grin spreads across his face. "Well now, that is great news." In a flash, he's standing right in front of the captain, who stumbles back in shock. Kettle brushes him aside, saying he needs to talk to the real boss. The captain warns him not to pull anything, but Kettle just meets his glare with a confident smirk. The captain has no choice but to lead him to the carriage. Much to his men's dismay, he shuts down their protests, saying their employer already agreed and fighting Kettle would be suicide. Inside, the butler is completely freaking out, but Melina tells him to calm down. Then, a knock comes from the door, and Kettle's voice rings out, "May I come in?" The butler shrieks, but Melina, after taking a deep breath, calmly replies, "Yes, come in." Outside, Kettle gives one last triumphant smirk. His plan worked perfectly. An old butler is sweating bullets, looking absolutely terrified. And across from him sits an absolute unit of a man, a barbarian just chilling with his arms crossed. The barbarian's voice is surprisingly calm as he speaks. He just tells the old man to relax. He promises he has no intention of harming him, but the butler isn't buying it for a second, inwardly screaming, "Don't lie to me." Meanwhile, the blue-haired girl is just staring in shock. She can't believe a legendary barbarian is right in front of her. She manages to stammer out a greeting, and he just hits her back with a cool, "The pleasure is mine." Our guy looks out at the blizzard and notes how surprisingly warm it is inside. The blue-haired woman explains it's all thanks to magic, and he's genuinely intrigued. This guy's never seen real magic before. Looking back outside, he warns them that their chances of making it through are slim. But then he drops this line, "That's why I will protect your lives." However, there's a catch. He tells them there's just one condition. She nervously asks him what he could possibly desire. With a slight smirk, he reveals his price. It's not gold or power. He just wants information about the world outside the snowfields. She is completely floored by this. Information? That's it? He just smirks, knowing it's a pretty sweet deal for her. And yeah, what other choice does she have? She reluctantly agrees. He's pleased with her answer and asks for her name. She introduces herself formally as Melina of House Akasha. He grins right back, introducing himself as Kettle. The deal is sealed. We get a flashback to Kettle's previous life. He was a total fantasy nerd surrounded by games and books. Then one day, bam, he just woke up as a barbarian in this frozen wasteland. There was no time for an existential crisis. The place was freezing and crawling with insane monsters. So he did what any MC would do. He became the leader of his tribe, fighting day in and day out just to survive and escape this snowfield. But every single time he tried to leave, a system window would pop up. It told him the quest was incomplete. Just as he was about to lose all hope, people from the outside finally started showing up. And that's when it hit him. The world beyond this snowy prison was the exact fantasy world he'd always dreamed about. From that moment on, he wasn't just surviving, he was grinding. He started completing quest after quest with one goal, getting out. Which brings us back to the present. You can see why information from outsiders like Melina is pure gold to him. Unfortunately, every other human he's met has either attacked him on sight or just gone completely insane from the cold. So yeah, he's just relieved to finally be having a civilized conversation for once. But then he changes the subject, noting that he can tell they're transporting a lot of weapons. He tells her he can literally hear the steel clanging in the wagons. The man has got super senses. So he cuts right to the chase and asks if there's a war going on in the outside world. Melina confirms it. The Empire and the Kingdom are at war. Kittle figures the outside world is not so peaceful after all. She explains the Empire has way more soldiers, but the Kingdom is holding on thanks to two things: swordmasters and a hero. Kettle's ears immediately perk up. Hero? A swordmaster? He needs to know what kind of power they have. Melina realizes he has no clue what she's talking about. She asks if he has ever heard of mysteries, so Melina breaks down the power system. It's all based on something called mystery. Only a tiny fraction of people can actually use this power, and they're ranked into 5 tiers. First up is third rate. These guys can basically just sense the power, not really use it. Then you have second rate. This is where you can actually start using the power for real. Next up is first rate. These are your standard knights and mages, manifesting their power as mana or aura. But after that, things get absolutely insane. The next ranks are for people who have broken past human limits. You've got the transcendent beings who can literally split the heavens. The Swordmaster is one of these monsters. And at the very top, the hero, a legendary being who doesn't just use power, they change the world itself. She finishes up by saying that even being a lowly third rate makes you a big shot in a small town. And after hearing all of this, Kettle's response is simple and absolutely epic. He just says, "I want to meet them." Melina is completely stunned. Did he just say he wants to go meet a god-tier being? But Kettle is dead serious. He's been trapped in this frozen hell for who knows how long, just trying to survive. He's stuck in his dream fantasy world, but it is a prison. His only real goal is to finally see what is on the other side. His expression hardens with pure determination. He declares that he really wants to get out of this place. Then he corrects himself with a confident smirk. No, he must get out. As the carriage rumbles on, Melina finally asks the question on her mind. Is he really the Barbarian? He doesn't deny it, pointing out that she clearly seems to have heard of him. She confirms it, telling him she knows him from the legend. Now Kettle is the one who's completely surprised. There is a legend about him? Melina can't believe it. How could he possibly not know his own legend? Kettle just laughs, remembering some crazy knight he met once. So that guy was the Emperor? He chuckles. He plays it cool though, smirking and telling her the legend is probably correct. But he quickly brings the conversation back to the important stuff. Why are they hauling all these weapons across a frozen wasteland? She clearly does not want to answer, stammering for a response. But Kettle's stare is intense, and she finally cracks. Her family is desperate for money. Turns out her family used to be rich merchants, but they got sabotaged by rivals and are now drowning in debt. Kettle's brain works at light speed. He immediately deduces she is selling weapons to the kingdom for their war against the Empire. His logic is flawless. The Empire has a huge army, so they do not need weapons. The kingdom, however, must be desperate for them. He notes that high demand and low supply means a huge price tag, big enough for her to risk her own life. He keeps going, guessing that her territory must border the Empire, forcing her to take this completely insane route. Malina is just speechless. All she can do is confirm that he's 100% correct. She's totally shaken. The legends painted him as a mindless brute, but this guy is an absolute genius. She wonders who he really is. But before he can answer, the carriage jolts to a stop. Then, a blood-curdling screech. While everyone else panics, Ketil remains perfectly calm. He knows exactly what is happening. They have got company. Out of nowhere, a monstrous black slime erupts from the snow. The entire party just freezes in absolute terror. Ketil just squints at it, but Melina confirms their worst fears. This thing is a legendary monster straight from the history books. She explains this snowfield is a graveyard for powerful warriors. The few who survived all warned of this exact beast. But Ketil just grins like an absolute madman. He says, of course, they're chewy and make decent snacks. Melina's jaw just hits the floor. You eat them? He tells her to go catch it herself if she's interested, leaving her completely speechless. But the monster isn't waiting for a dinner debate. With a terrifying screech, it lunges straight for them. The guards immediately start to panic. Melina desperately screams Ketil's name for help. But Ketil doesn't even flinch. He just crosses his arms, saying he'll only step in if there's real danger. He tells a shocked Melina that her mercs can handle it. He wants to see what these outside world fighters are made of. The slime crashes down on them. The captain immediately shouts for a shield defense. A soldier gets his shield up just in time, bracing for the full force of the monster's charge. But it's not enough. The impact is insane, and the soldier gets sent flying backwards. Another warrior goes for a direct axe attack. He's also thrown back like a ragdoll, his weapon doing 0 damage. The leader thinks fast. He shouts that the slimes only move in straight lines. They need to scatter and coordinate their attacks. And it works. The spearman uses his weapon to vault right over the beast, landing a clean strike on its side. The monster shrieks in pain. The warrior sees his chance, channels energy into his spear, and lands an even bigger hit. With the slime staggering, the captain charges in with his own glowing sword. He yells for his men to press the attack. He shouts out its weak point, a hidden core. Powering up his blade, he unleashes a massive downward slash. It's a perfect hit. The attack shatters the red crystal core, and the monster starts to dissolve. Victory! The mercenaries erupt in cheers. But check out Ketil. He just watches, completely unimpressed. The next challenge comes. Now it's a pack of giant wolves. One of the mercs gets cocky. He says maybe the rumors about this place were overblown. The captain immediately shuts him down. He warns the guy they are not even halfway there yet. Meanwhile, some of the mercs start whispering. They're getting suspicious of Ketil, calling him a freeloader and wanting to test him. One of the mercs breaks off from the group. He walks right up to Melina, saying they need to talk. He reminds her they are risking their lives for this job. She gratefully agrees, saying they were the only ones brave enough. But there's one big problem he cannot ignore. The so-called Barbarian Ketil has not lifted a single finger to help. So he formally asks for permission to test Ketil's skills. He wants to see if he deserves his special treatment. Melina looks totally stunned as the mercenary captain explains the situation. He sighs, admitting he tried to stop his men, but they just would not listen. But Ketil just smirks, totally unfazed by the threat. So you want to test me? Fine by me. But not right now. The merc is completely caught off guard. Ketil just looks up past them, axe in hand. Looks like you'll have to get in line. We've got company. Suddenly, a chilling presence looms over them all. A deep voice echoes, the frail mortals have arrived. The voice continues its creepy monologue. Looks like I'll be enjoying a rare delicacy today. Then, a massive white serpent erupts from the snow. It roars at them. Bark for me, mortals. Struggle all you want. It will only make you taste better. Melina lets out a piercing scream. The guards are doing everything they can to withstand the monster's power. But a commanding voice cuts right through the chaos. Enough. It's Ketil, and he looks seriously ticked off. He declares they're his guests, ordering the attacker to stand down. You, why are you here? The snake hisses. Has he forgotten the laws of the land? He's way outside his tribe's territory. Ketil fires back that it's none of its business. This, of course, only makes the giant snake even angrier. With a massive surge of power, the creature reveals its true form, roaring, I am the snake. How dare you give orders to someone who was promised immutability? Ketil has heard enough. Then you need to be taught a lesson, he says, before throwing a punch that unleashes a devastating shockwave. The blast slams directly into the giant snake and creates a mushroom cloud of crackling blue energy. The sheer force of the impact is insane, sending the other barbarians flying backwards. Melina is knocked clean off her feet as one of her men screams her name in a total panic. When it's over, the snake's head is just a bloody mess in the snow. Kettle coldly remarks, "You're the type who only listens after a beating." Melina can only stare, completely stunned by the display of power. "Lord Kettle?" she whispers in disbelief. With his eyes now glowing a menacing purple, Kettle tells her he'll be right there after he finishes cleaning up the trash. He stomps the ground, shattering it with dark energy, then launches himself forward with blinding speed. Another massive explosion rocks the plains. A few minutes later, Mylena and the butler are shocked. The mercs are now begging Kettle for forgiveness. Inside the warm carriage, Kettle is surprisingly calm. He tells them he understands not trusting a total stranger. The journey continues, and somehow the butler has been kicked. Kettle turns to Mylena, his expression dead serious. "That said, there is something I am curious about." He asks why a noble lady like her would personally risk her life on such a dangerous trade mission. She hesitates for a moment, then admits she's the daughter of a concubine, basically the second wife of Lord Akasha. She explains that her mother was used in a political marriage and then totally abandoned, left with zero power. Clenching her fist, she confesses they're treated like servants. They're basically family in name only. "I volunteered for this trade mission," she declares, which clearly catches Kettle completely off guard. Her reason is simple but powerful, because someone has to set an example. A small smirk plays on Kettle's lips. He calls her intelligent, ambitious, and a greedy one. Melina is totally floored by his words, but before she can respond, a sudden jolt from the carriage interrupts her. A voice calls out that they've finally arrived. Stepping outside, her men just gasp in total awe. The endless blizzard has completely vanished, replaced by a vibrant, lush green valley stretching out before them. After thanking Kettle, Melina says her trip back will be easy, since she won't be packing weapons after selling the goods. But she can't let his earlier comment go. She turns and asks what he meant by calling her ambitious. He says he meant exactly what he said. He knows her once powerful family is now on the brink of financial ruin. He connects all the dots. If she succeeds where the main family fails, she'll win everyone's loyalty. He asks, "Your goal is to seize control of your family, isn't it?" She admits he's right. Kettle just smirks, noting that the story of a cast-off heir rising to power is a classic. Melina is shocked. This barbarian is genuinely smart. He's way more clever than anyone she has ever met. Thinking of the incredible power he has, an idea sparks in her mind. She asks if he's ever thought about leaving the snowfields. "How would you like to join me?" she asks boldly. He turns her down for now, saying he still has things he needs to take care of. Melina gracefully accepts his answer. She then removes an ornate emblem from her neck, offering it to him as a token of their meeting. She tells him to show it to the Akasha family if he ever decides to come to the outside world. Kettle accepts the gift with a huge grin. They part ways, hoping they'll meet again someday. He watches as her carriage disappears into the lush valley, leaving the endless snow behind. 5 years pass, and back in the endless land of snow, a declaration is made. Finally, all conditions have been met. A series of system notifications suddenly pop up, confirming a quest is complete and the rewards have been distributed. And then the message he has been waiting for finally appears. "You may now leave the snowfields." Kettle stands at the edge of the snowy wasteland, ready to finally step into the fantasy world of his dreams. With a confident smirk, Kettle looks ahead, totally ready for a new beginning. It's time to take his first step into the fantasy world. In a vibrant green forest, Kettle takes a huge breath. He's finally savoring the sense of a new world. The smell of grass, wild beasts, and fresh river water, it's a world away from the frozen wasteland he escaped. He cracks open his eyes, a massive grin spreading across his face. Nice. Very nice. But then, his whole vibe shifts. He whips around, his eyes locking onto a frozen mountain peak in the distance. "You cursed snow! Let's never meet again!" he roars, finally tasting freedom. This is the fantasy world he's always dreamed of, a land of pure wonder he thought was impossible to reach. The journey here was a total nightmare, but he survived. And now, he's going to enjoy this world to the absolute fullest. I'm talking magic, swords, dragons, and elves. The whole fantasy package. That burning desire for a new life was the only thing that kept him going. Back in the snowy plains, just wanting to survive was never enough. As he wanders through this paradise, something shimmering in the distance catches his eye. That glow, it's gotta be a village. Finally, civilization. Bro is absolutely ecstatic. Finally, a civilized village in this world. He flashes back to trying to talk with the barbarians back home. They just stared at him like he was speaking gibberish. Man, he misses actual conversation. He starts rehearsing his intro. Should he go with a simple hello or the classic isekai, "What world is this?" He decides to just play it cool and be a gentleman. With a plan in mind, he starts sprinting towards the lights. Meanwhile, in a peaceful clearing, an elderly elf addresses his people. "Elf villagers," he declares. "From now on, this will be our home." The entire crowd of elves erupts in cheers. They're overjoyed to finally have a new place to call their own. But one of the younger elves isn't so sure. He approaches the elder, looking worried. "Elder, is this place really safe?" The elder shoots him a confident look. "It is." But the young elf isn't convinced. "I know humans can't come here, however. The snowy plains are right there. It's way too close. What about the monsters that live there?" The elder just scoffs. "Not a problem. For thousands of years, nothing has ever crossed those plains. Besides, we put up a barrier just in case." He explains it's a powerful barrier, woven from ancient elven magic. It completely hides their presence and stops anyone from getting close. And even if something did get through, he adds, it wouldn't matter, because we have Her Majesty the Queen. He smiles, totally certain that no threat could ever possibly reach their village. He is about to be proven very, very wrong. Right on cue, Kettle walks forward and feels his hand pass through something strange. It felt like tearing a piece of fabric. He pauses, totally confused. Felt like something just tore. Did I touch something? He just shrugs it off and keeps moving. But then a sudden sound makes him freeze in his tracks. Peeking through the grass, he spots a small child with pointed ears. Wait, is that an elf? He absolutely can't believe his eyes. A real elf, one of the most iconic fantasy races ever. He never dreamed he'd meet one this fast. Talk about incredible luck. For the first time, he's truly glad to be alive. But the little elf child is completely lost and on the verge of tears. I'm scared. I think I wandered too far. Suddenly, she hears a voice right behind her. Her eyes go wide with pure shock. Kettle is looming over her, his massive frame casting a terrifying shadow. All he says is a friendly, hello? The poor girl is completely petrified by the sight of him, and then she just faints from the sheer terror. Kettle just stands there, holding the unconscious child. A single bead of sweat rolls down his face. What just happened? I didn't even get to say anything and she fainted, he thinks. Well, I guess I should probably take her back to the village. He's already picturing the scene. He returns the lost child, and the grateful elves welcome him as a hero. He smiles to himself, already looking forward to that warm welcome. Cradling the sleeping child in his arms, he confidently walks into the elven settlement. The welcome he gets is not what he expected. The elves start screaming in absolute terror. A human, and he is my child. Instantly, spears are pointed right at his face. They demand to know who he is and how he shattered their barrier. Yeah, this is not going as planned. The child's mother screams in pure horror, her face a mask of absolute fear. The elder is in total shock. Impossible. This land is untouched by humans. The barrier was perfect. How did he get in? He realizes the barrier is cracked and starts to panic. He screams for the queen, but she's out on patrol. Of course she is. Kettle tries to explain he's not an enemy, but they're not listening. An elf just screams, give back the child or we'll hunt you down. The elder's mind is racing. Their barrier was ancient magic. No simple trick could have broken it. He comes to the only logical conclusion. This was a prepared attack. The humans must have been tracking them for years. Kettle is just baffled. Do I really look like a kidnapper? He knows he needs to clear this up, and fast. Just then, the little girl in his arms starts to wake up from her stress nap. He gently places her on the ground. Go on, he says with a kind smile. Go back to your family. The child looks up at his kind face, and her brain immediately registers him as a terrifying, shadowy demon. So naturally, she lets out a blood-curdling scream and sprints back towards her parents. Kettle is completely crushed. Is my face really that scary? I thought I looked pretty good back on the plains. He turns back to the elves with his hands up. Look, I returned the child. As you can see, I'm not your enemy. But the elder isn't having it. The hostage is free. Everyone, attack. In perfect unison, the elven archers draw their bows, taking aim at our completely bewildered hero. Fire! A glowing volley of magic arrows rains down from the sky, heading straight for Kettle, and he just stands there, totally dumbfounded. Can they literally not hear me? Kettle realizes elves aren't what he expected. They're way more savage out here. He always thought they were a gentle people, but in the wild, it's kill or be killed. So as arrows rain down, Kettle just stands there, totally unfazed as they bounce right off him like they're Nerf bullets. His attackers are getting desperate. They scream to keep firing, convinced his barrier has a limit. Kettle's had enough of this. He calmly raises a hand, ready to shut this little party down. And in a single instant, he unleashes a massive shockwave. The blast absolutely obliterates the elves' position, tearing the forest apart. The elven archers get sent flying. One of them screams for a barrier, but it's way too late for that. Trees are ripped from the ground as the elves are tossed through the air, screaming in terror. This wave of destruction carves a huge path straight through the woods. When the dust finally settles, an old elf can only stare in total disbelief. What just happened? At the end of the trench he just made stands Kettle. He calmly tells them, I am not your enemy. Then he gets a little awkward, admitting, whoops, I guess I used a little too much power. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a flaming phoenix arrow comes screaming right for his head. It connects and erupts in a massive explosion right where he was standing. The old elf and his companion are completely confused. Just then, an elegant elven woman lands gracefully on a nearby cliff. And it's none other than Helia Royce, the queen of the elves. She demands to know what's going on. The elder immediately shouts that a human attacked them. The queen's face goes cold. She realizes this place isn't safe for them either. But Kettle just walks out of the smoke without a single scratch. Hey wait, I'd appreciate it if you could listen to what I have to say. The queen and the elder are absolutely floored. How is he unharmed after a direct hit from Her Majesty? The queen glares down from her cliff. She thinks even a powerhouse like him is after her people. Her eyes fill with disgust. You can tell she truly despises humans. She introduces herself as Queen of the Leaf Clan and knocks another arrow. Aiming a fiery arrow right at him, she declares he will pay the price for his greed. Kettle is completely lost. Can't they understand me? But we're speaking the same language. Is she just ignoring me? Or could it be that the relationship between human and elves is just that poor? He sighs, realizing talk isn't working. He remembers a lesson: people listen once you land a hit. The queen lets her arrow fly and it crackles with brilliant blue energy. But this is no ordinary arrow. It transforms into a massive, roaring spectral beast. And Kettle's response? He just clenches his fist, gathering an insane amount of power. He throws a single punch and a devastating beam of pure force slams right into the magical beast. The elf queen can only stare, her face a mask of pure absolute shock. Kettle's attack completely overpowers hers. Whoops, looks like he did it again. The resulting explosion obliterates the spectral beast and slams right into the elf queen. She is slammed into the ground, defeated and surrounded by rubble. And Kettle just scratches his cheek, wondering if maybe he should have held back even more. The queen looks up, pale with fear. She's completely and utterly speechless. She realizes he's on the level of a transcendent. Why would someone so strong be here? Sweating, she makes a desperate call. She tells everyone to get away immediately. Her people are shocked, but she screams at them again, ordering them to flee for their lives. As her people run, she turns to face Kettle, defiantly yelling that he will never accomplish his goal. Kettle is more lost than ever. He was just trying to talk. This has all gone completely sideways. But the queen isn't listening. She closes her eyes and begins a powerful incantation. Her eyes snap open, unleashing a massive eruption of pure fire. From a magic circle, a colossal bull made of fire appears.
Pigo.
Kettle's eyes light up with pure excitement. A summon. He looks like a kid on Christmas morning. He thinks back to the ugly, grotesque monsters from his home in the frozen tundra. But this? A majestic bull with horns made of blazing fire? This is something else entirely. He thinks to himself, now that's a spirit. This is what a real fantasy world is all about. The queen gives her final order. Pigo. Annihilate the enemy before you. But the highest grade fire spirit just grumbles, complaining that contracts are nothing but a hassle. The queen immediately cuts him off, simply saying, silence. She knows that the stronger and more ancient a spirit is, the bigger its ego. She can barely even summon this thing and only got the contract with help from another tribe. Fulfill the contract, Pigo, she commands. Her voice leaves no room for argument. The spirit stomps its hoof, ready to fight. So, I just have to kill the human, right? But then it gets a good look at its target, and it completely freezes up. Because Kettle is standing there engulfed in a dark aura, flashing a terrifying razor-toothed grin. The mighty spirit is shaken to its very core. It thinks to itself, is that thing even human? A gigantic flaming bull spirit bursts from a magic seal, roaring with raw power. Kettle is absolutely losing his mind. This is straight out of a fantasy novel, and he's seeing it for real. But his fanboy moment is cut short when a voice calls him. You human have intruded upon our land. The fiery bull, Pigo, glares down at him. A pathetic human dares to covet the races of nature? It threatens to turn him into ash, but Kettle is just completely unfazed. Bro is just confused. Pigo doesn't wait for an answer. Its eyes glow with pure fury. It digs its hooves into the ground, charging up an insane amount of power before it attacks. And it's off. The spirit beast launches forward like a blazing meteor, ready for total annihilation. But Kettle doesn't even flinch. He just braces for the impact. The collision is insane, tearing the very earth apart. The elf queen nearby gets thrown back by the sheer force of the blast. She looks up, and what she sees is completely unbelievable. Somehow, Kettle caught the charging bull with one hand. He just grabbed it by the horn. This absolute unit of a beast is just suspended in midair. Its charge completely negated. Kettle just cracks this chilling smirk. He thinks a beastly form just makes it easier to handle. His eyes flare with purple energy as he cocks back his fist. His logic? Just beat it to death. The elf can only watch in absolute horror. She can't believe what she's seeing. And with a single punch, Kettle connects. A blinding flash of light erupts from the impact. The shockwave carves a massive trench straight through the entire forest. This explosion is so huge you can see it from space. It looks like a mushroom cloud. Back on the ground, the landscape is completely obliterated. The elf screams as the fiery aftermath rushes towards her. When the dust finally settles, she collapses to her knees, staring at the devastation. She can only whisper, "This can't be real," gazing at the massive crater he left with one punch. She looks up at Kettle, who's just standing calmly at the crater's edge. Absolutely terrified, she lowers her head and begs him to spare her people. But Kettle calmly looks down at her. He says, "I am not your enemy, elf." She looks up, completely stunned by his words. What is happening? Turns out, this was all a massive misunderstanding. A really, really bad one. She bows her head in shame, apologizing for judging him so quickly. She explains they thought he was an enemy because he'd just returned a lost elven child. Now she feels terrible. Kettle gets it. Other humans drove them to be this cautious, but he's still a bit bummed they didn't let him explain. She asks cautiously, just to be sure, he's really not one of the humans chasing them, right? He confirms it's his first time even seeing an elf. He's from the White Wasteland, where they don't exist. Her eyes go wide. The White Wasteland? Kettle just owns it. The Ashen Barbarian of the Wasteland. That's what they call me. She's in total disbelief. She didn't even think humans could survive there. She asks if others could have come from the wasteland too. Is there an army of Kettles out there? Kettle just crosses his arms. Who knows? But I seriously doubt it. He explains the wasteland has strict rules that even giant, powerful serpents can't defy. But for some reason, a special hidden quest allowed him to bypass those rules. He's pretty sure that was a one-time thing, though. A very rare exception. The elf breathes a sigh of relief. Then Kettle asks if the creature she summoned was okay. He starts sweating a little, remembering he, kind of punched that bull in half. She tells him not to worry. It was a spirit, not a summon. Forcibly unsummoning it just sends it back home. Feeling like she owes him big time, she offers to do whatever she can to help him. Now Kettle's interest is piqued. A spirit, huh? He immediately wonders if non-elves can make contracts with spirits too. The elf's face falls. She tells him that might not be possible. She clarifies that only humans with a deep connection to nature can do it, so for a guy like him, it's probably impossible. She trails off, but then she gets an idea. If you really want to contract a spirit, she says, go to Elfo Sagrado. Kittal repeats the name, intrigued. It's the holy land of all elves, where their god lives. If it's possible anywhere, it's there. Kettle is hyped, but he's gotta ask, would a human even be allowed in a holy elven land? Normally, no way, but with her introduction, it should be fine. She'll tell him the secret location. This place, Elfo Sagrado, is the dream destination for anyone who studies elves. She explains that letting a human near a place more precious than life is a huge risk. No elf would normally do this. But still, she wants to believe in him. She wants to trust him. Take this with you, she says, offering him the glowing red crystal. He gratefully accepts the gem, a sign of their new alliance. She warns him that even if he gets there, the elven god might still test him. But she has a feeling he'll pass. She wishes him luck, and Kettle thanks her. She finally introduces herself as Marsilia Hazian Carusia, the queen of the elves. That's right, the queen. He just gives a confident grin back. Kettle the barbarian. And without another word, Kettle stomps his foot, shattering the ground beneath him. He launches himself into the air like a rocket, leaving a trail of blue energy. His eyes are glowing as he rockets through the forest canopy. He's moving so fast, he's just a blur. The trees streaking by in an instant. From above, he looks like a freaking comet, carving a path through the landscape with a massive shockwave. Meanwhile, at the border of the Varkan territory, a sudden powerful tremor rocks a fortress. The guards are panicking. They have no idea what's happening, only that something is coming fast. A massive object plummets from the sky, leaving a trail of smoke as it heads straight for them. With a heavy thud, a figure makes a superhero landing, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. The guards are completely frozen in terror. They know exactly who just dropped in on them. So Kettle just casually rocks up to the guards and says, "Hi, nice to meet you." The guards are floored. They're all thinking, the loud noise we heard just now, was it him? One guard squints, getting a better look. Okay, ash gray hair, big ol' scar on his chest. The gears are turning. And then it hits him like a ton of bricks. Wait a minute, could this be the legendary Ashen Barbarian? Our boy takes one tiny step forward, and bam! The guards pull out their swords like their lives depend on it. He just throws his hands up. Oh, whoa, chill out, guys. I am friendly, I promise. The lead guard isn't buying it. He is still tense, demanding to know what this giant wants. The barbarian just points, not at them, but past them, right at the castle wall. He goes, "I would like to visit your territory." The guards just stare, completely baffled. Is this guy for real? Next thing you know, he is in an interrogation room. The guard's like, "So, you just want to pass through, right?" "If possible, I'd like to stay for a bit," he says. Then he drops his name, Kettle. Guard asks for ID. Kettle's response, "Don't have any." Of course he doesn't. But then a memory hits him. A flashback to Myelena giving him this fancy-looking crest. Back to reality, he slaps the crest on the table. "Will this work?" he asks. The guard is shocked. Kettle explains it is from House Akasha, a pretty big deal, apparently. And the guard knows the name. A powerful merchant family from another kingdom making moves. He is still skeptical, though. It looks real, but verifying it from another kingdom is a pain. Finally, he agrees. But of course there's a catch. There is always a catch. They need Kettle to prove he is not a threat. The test? Team up with 3 other randos, form a party, and clear a dungeon to prove their worth. Kettle thinks this sounds ridiculously easy. Sure, why not? He says with a bright smile. Ah, but here's the fine print. After the dungeon, he has to report everything that went down. Kettle gets it immediately. It is a clever plan to make all the new guys spy on each other. Smart. The guard is a little flustered that he figured it out so fast. "Are you really a barbarian?" Kettle proudly confirms it. "I am." The guard is floored. He thought barbarians were just dumb brutes. He wraps things up real quick after that. Meanwhile, in the waiting room, we meet our next winner. Alessandro Tyrannus, a so-called paladin, entering a dungeon with a rat that goes after people's pouches. "This is so tragic," he mutters. A thief named Cassin Hark hears him and immediately starts roasting him. "You picking a fight, old man? You mad cause a thief ripped you off?" Tyrannus explodes, calling him a bastard. Cassin just laughs, pointing out how ragged his armor is. Was he even a real paladin? He even calls Tyrannus a bottom feeder, just like him. Oh, the paladin is fuming now. But the last straw is when Cassan makes fun of his name. That is it. Sword is out. Cassan grins, totally ready for this. He pulls out a dagger dripping with poison. You think your tin armor can protect you from this? He challenges. Their blades clash, but a third person steps in to break it up. A nun, of all people. Could you please stop? Meet Hayes, the cleric. She's already wondering how she's supposed to clear a dungeon with these two clowns. She knows they're waiting on one more person, and she is already dreading who it could be. Just then, the door opens. The guard announces their final party member has arrived, and in walks a massive shadow of a man with glowing purple eyes. Talk about an entrance. The whole room freezes. They're just staring, completely stunned by the size of this absolute unit. And then Ketel breaks the silence with a giant friendly smile. Hey, are you guys my new party? They are terrified. Tyrannus is thinking he is huge, Hayes is wondering if he is human, and Kassan just feels the pressure. The guard dips out, leaving them to get acquainted. Ketal, completely clueless, happily starts introductions. Hi, I'm Ketal, I'm a barbarian. He looks at Kassan, who is sweating buckets as he stammers out that he is a thief. Next up is our armored buddy, puffing out his chest. I am a paladin, Alessandro Tyrannus. Ketel immediately latches onto that. Oh, a paladin? So you use holy power? Tyrannus starts sweating. Well, normally yes, but I am a special kind of paladin, so I can't use it. The nun steps up, looking a bit nervous. I am Hayes, a cleric of Colossia. Ketel's face gets serious. A cleric? And they're still questioning your identity? She gets all flustered. Well, my god is the god of lies and deceit, so yeah, he is not super popular. Ketel just says, I see, and the room goes dead silent. A paladin with no holy power and a cleric of lies? What a team. Thankfully, the guard saves them from the awkwardness. Everyone ready? Let's go. They all exchange looks, and nobody seems happy about this at all. Hayes and Kassan look especially miserable. They are definitely wondering what they did to deserve this. After a short walk, their hooded guide stops. We are here. Ketel looks up, and he seems a little surprised by the view. They're in a forest clearing, staring at a dark cave. Yep, this is the dungeon they're supposed to clear. Aight, let's start the raid. What's the plan? Ketel asks Kassan, and dude just flinches. He stammers and calls the barbarian, Sir. Ketel just laughs it off. He tells Kassan to chill with the formalities since they're a team now. Totally embarrassed, Kassan tries to play it cool and starts laying out the strategy. His plan is classic RPG 101. The warriors are on the front line, thief checks for traps, and the cleric supports from the back. Solid, right? Ketel's totally on board with it, but Kassan looks like he's already regretting this whole adventure. With the quote-unquote plan set, Ketel takes the lead and gets ready to charge in. The team ventures into this dark, icy cave. And of course, Hayes is already spooked, whispering about how dark it is. Meanwhile, Kassan's spidey senses are tingling. He thinks the lack of traps is way too suspicious. And bam! He spots something. He throws a hand out to stop Ketel, warning him there are monsters ahead. Ketel looks down and sees bone fragments everywhere. Yep, it's a skeleton party, and they're about to get up and attack. Kassan immediately realizes this is a setup. This wasn't a test, my friends. It was an ambush meant to get rid of them. Ketel is super curious. Skeletons, you say? Kassan explains that skeletons are no joke. Apparently, they're like the Terminator, they just keep coming even if you chop off their limbs. Plus, their bones give them a massive defense buff. The difficulty of this dungeon just spiked through the roof. So Kassan snaps into leader mode, telling the cleric to get her buffs ready to go. He tells the warrior to tank up and for Ketel to get ready for a fight. Ketel just says, got it, thinking Kassan is some kind of tactical genius. The irony is just beautiful. Alright, it's showtime. Ketel steps forward. That one step is all it takes. His skeleton starts to wake up. Ketel's face is pure amazement as the skeleton clatters to life. The rest of the team are in a panic and getting ready to fight. The skeleton warrior charges right at Ketel, swinging a sword that's bigger than my student debt. But Ketel just slaps it and bam. One punch is all it takes to absolutely shatter it. Oopsie. The skeleton is now a glittering pile of bone dust. And the rest of the party? Their jaws are on the floor. Just pure, unadulterated shock. Ketel just smirks and says, huh, so taking the head off really does work. No kidding, Sherlock. Kassan looks completely defeated. That's not what I meant at all. See, what Ketel just did should be impossible. These skeletons are buffed with dungeon mana, making their bones super hard. Normally you would have to chop at their neck like a lumberjack. One-shotting a skeleton is literally impossible. Kassan is just stunned. He knew the guy was strong, but this is a whole other level of overpowered. Now the entire team is shaking in their boots, wondering if this absolute monster is even human. Meanwhile, Ketel just cracks his knuckles and grins. Alright, let's keep this party going. The others immediately snap to attention and scramble to follow him. He tells them there is no need to rush, but his terrified teammates just salute and scream, yes sir. Yeah, their inner monologue is pretty simple. They just really don't want to die here. A short while later, Ketel stops dead in his tracks with a puzzled look on his face. His foot bumped into something. The entire party just freezes, staring down at this new, terrifying skull on the ground. And just like that, another skeleton clatters to life. The team looks on in pure horror. Yep, round 2 is officially starting. But Ketel turns to them and calmly asks for a favor. In the middle of an undead ambush, he wants to fight them all by himself. Apparently, our boy wants to test out something. They just quickly agree. Smart move, folks. Ketal thanks them, and his eyes start glowing with this intense purple light. This is about to get good. He casually strolls up to the skeleton while the party watches from a safe distance, wondering what this dude was up to. He gets right up in its face, checking it out like a science project. He is genuinely curious how it is put together. The skeleton is not having it and takes a swing, but Ketal just stops it mid-swing with 2 fingers. He breaks the blade in half and looks at the skeleton, basically asking, "What now?" A broken blade won't stop old Skelly here, so it lunges and takes another swing. But instead of dodging, Ketal just grabs the skeleton by the wrist. He flashes this brilliant smile and says, "Then how about this?" Oh, he is enjoying this way too much. And crunch, he completely breaks the skeleton's hand and it falls to the ground. He watches it, completely intrigued. The poor skeleton just stares at its broken hand, totally confused. You can see the question marks above its head, but confusion quickly turns to rage. It lets out a battle cry and swings its massive sword with its other hand. It even does a fancy weapon toss, catching it in its good hand to keep fighting. That's some serious skill for a pile of bones. Ketal is actually impressed. He's like, "Oh, so you know how to switch hands?" The skeleton charges, but its attack is stopped dead. Ketal just casually catches its wrist. With basically 0 effort, he breaks off the other hand and the skeleton is sent staggering back. But wait, it's not done yet. The skeleton lunges again, this time using its arm as a sword. Ketal is amazed. It can substitute parts of itself as weapons. Its intelligence is quite high. This brutal display is a little too much for the party, who look like they're about to lose their lunches. They can only watch and tremble in silence. This guy is a true barbarian. And man, do we feel sorry for that poor skeleton. With a menacing crack, our glowing-eyed barbarian puts the poor skeleton in his place. Its skull rattles to the ground, and get this, it starts rolling around. Our MC is amazed, so it can move with only its head. Amusing, he mutters. And crunch, he stomps on the poor thing. Then his entire vibe suddenly shifts from psycho killer to friendly neighbor. He apologizes for the delay. Kassan, who's still about to wet his pants, frantically insists it is no problem at all. Thanks, I guess, Kasso replies. Then he turns to leave. All right then, time to go. The rest of the party nervously agrees, like they have a choice. A while later, the group comes to a halt at the base of a huge staircase. They finally reach the 2nd floor. Great, more stairs. The atmosphere is tense and the whole party looks exhausted from the climb. Kassan cautiously suggests they take a little break, and to his absolute relief, Ketal actually agrees. Kassan weeps with gratitude. As the party collapses, Ketal just sits and observes. He breaks the silence, saying he has a question. He even admits he's not very knowledgeable on the subject. Oh, this should be good. Hayes is a bit flustered but encourages him, saying a desire to learn is a virtue. She then asks what he wants to know. Ketal asks a surprisingly logical question. Why is a dangerous dungeon allowed to exist so close to a populated town? Hayes explains that monsters generally stay inside. Any exceptions are handled quickly. Kassan jumps in, explaining that dungeons are a natural phenomenon. They can look like caves or even massive towers of doom. The key detail, he adds, is that they tend to pop up near densely populated areas. How convenient for our heroes. Hayes continues, saying that when a dungeon appears, the local lord sends in mercenaries like them to go clean it up. Ketal clarifies, so dungeons never appear directly inside a town, but always a certain distance away. Alessandro confirms this. Suspicious, right? Suddenly, Ketal's eyes light up. He asks the most important question of all. Is there a reward for clearing them? Hayes confirms that for a dungeon this size, defeating the final boss would probably yield some seriously hefty loot. A dark, knowing smile creeps across Ketal's face. He thinks to himself, just like the game. Hayes overhears him, but he quickly plays it off. Says he was just talking to himself before changing the subject. He then asks a question that leaves everyone stunned. Who is it that makes these dungeons? Now we're talking. Hayes replies that dungeons are just natural, but Ketal isn't buying it for a second. He says there are too many oddities. He points out that they conveniently appear near towns, almost as if they're demanding to be explored and tempting people with treasure. For a natural event, he concludes, it feels far too deliberate. And you can see the realization just hit Hayes like a truck. She's totally shocked. She admits she'd never even thought to question something so fundamental. Welcome to the conspiracy club, Hayes. Kassan is having a similar crisis. He always figured barbarians were ignorant savages, but this line of questioning is anything but. Remembering how cruel this guy can be, he starts to wonder if Ketal is truly a typical barbarian at all. You think? Kassan's train of thought is interrupted by Ketal cheerfully asking if everyone's rested. Talk about a mood shift. Startled out of their philosophical funk, the party members quickly agree they're ready to move on. They just want to get out of here. The party ventures deeper into the dungeon, but then Ketal suddenly stops in his tracks, looking surprised. He spotted a large treasure chest. Kassan tells him it's a dungeon reward, his for the taking if he can unlock it. But there's no chance in heck they can open this chest. They'd need a high-level rogue for that. Just then, Ketal turns to him and asks him, Kassan, can I to unlock it? Oops. Kassan is completely dumbfounded. Ketal just lays out the simple logic. That's a treasure chest, and you are a rogue. Can't argue with that. Ketal is genuinely excited, saying it is a rogue's job to handle chests, right? but Kisan starts to sweat pure panic. He panics internally, screaming that if he had skills to actually unlock a chest like that, he would not be a bottom feeder stuck in a low-level dungeon. Kisan is freaking out. He cannot possibly tell Ketal the truth, not when the big guy is looking at him with such pure, sparkly-eyed expectation. His mind flashes to the worst-case scenario. Ketal's disappointment turns into a cold, deadly glare, calling him useless before crushing his skull. With a strange, sweaty smile, Kisan forces out a laugh and agrees to give it a shot, all while crying his eyes out on the inside. As he kneels, Ketal leans in close, watching with intense curiosity. Talk about pressure. Kisan is pretty sure he is not getting out of this alive if he fails. He desperately tries to recall the lockpicking skills he saw other adventurers use back when he was just a porter carrying their junk. With shaky hands, he begins to work on the lock. The sound of metal scraping echoes in the quiet dungeon. As Ketal looms over him, radiating a dark, impatient aura, Kesson realizes this is it. He has to risk his life on this one shot. This is the moment of truth for Kesson the rogue. Kisan is about to lose his mind when click, the lock opens. Ketal looks over, but wait a second. Why is Kisan trembling? Oh, he's full-on ugly crying now. Through his tears, he manages to sob out. It's opened. Hayes, the cleric, is totally blown away. Whoa, I heard only skilled thieves could do this. You are amazing. Even Ketal cracks a grin, looking impressed. Is that so? That's impressive, Kisan. Even Kisan can't believe it. He has always prided himself as someone who always does his best, but he thinks, was I not doing my best until now? It's a full-on existential crisis, folks. Ketal cuts right to the chase, asking what the loot is worth. Hayes figures it is enough for a family to live like royalty for a month. Understood, Ketal says with a smirk. Kisan, you are on loot duty. Kisan immediately snaps to attention. Yes, sir. He eagerly reaches into the chest and pulls out a super sparkly, gem-studded goblet. He has never held this much loot in his life. Suddenly, Ketal goes, "Hey, Kisan." And then he screams in absolute surprise and terror. Ketal is completely lost. You need some help? But Kisan just shakes his head frantically. Does something hurt? Ketal asks. Kisan panics and yells, "No, I did not do anything." Yeah, the rest of the party has absolutely no idea what is going on. After that little bit of weirdness, the party continues deeper into the cave. Suddenly, Kisan calls out, "Wait, please stop. It is skeletons." Ketal sizes up the situation. Looks like 4 skeletons. I will handle 3 of them. The whole party flinches. Did he really just say that? You guys handle the last one, he says, looking all fired up. Kisan clutches his bag of loot, realizing this is a real fight. Alessandro just nods grimly. Understood. The moment Ketal takes a step forward, the pile of bones on the ground starts to stir. With a ton of rattling sounds, the skeletons begin to assemble themselves. Kisan watches, completely horrified. Man, watching bones put themselves back together is always creepy. The 4 skeletons rise, eyes glowing with an eerie blue light, and let out a collective silent scream. Ketal gives the order. Everyone, let the battle begin. Kisan is the first one to move, rushing toward the skeletons, his blade flashing. The first skeleton is taken by surprise, but just as Kisan is about to strike, Ketal intercepts them. He's holding 3 of the skeletons in a tight bear hug. You are spectating a rare spectacle. Do not interrupt. I will handle you 3. The 4th skeleton, now all alone, swings its sword down. But Alessandro is ready for it, blocking the blow with a deafening clang of his shield. Kisan flies into action. He leaps over it, daggers drawn and ready to strike. Meanwhile, Hayes' eyes glow as she casts a spell, Shadow of Confusion. Alessandro takes the opening, swinging his glowing sword in a massive overhead cleave. The skeleton collapses to the ground. But hold up, they weren't able to break its core. The skeleton just reattaches its parts and attacks again. Ketal watches all this with a pleased smile. It is really impressive to see a party's core skills in action firsthand. Quite rare, he adds, before crushing the 3 skeletons he is holding with his bare hands. Boom! Well then, he says as the bones dissolve, with the obstacles cleared, let us enjoy the show. As the 3 party members prepare for the second round, they're all thinking the same thing. Somehow, this barbarian is testing us. Man, do they all look fired up. The poor skeleton blinks in confusion. It knows it's toast. Hayes' eyes burn with intensity. If you show weakness, you will die. Fired up, Alessandro charges forward with a ferocious expression, overwhelming the final enemy. A flurry of red slashes fills the screen as the whole team goes all out. Finally, the skull clatters to the ground. With the fight finally over, the party collapses, panting from exhaustion. Ketal watches his exhausted party with a thoughtful expression. Those adventurers he met at the White Snowfield must have been strong after all. This party could barely even clear 1 skeleton. So off they go to the next floor. There were more monsters, but with Ketal at the front, it was hardly a problem. Until finally, they get to the final floor. At the far end of a huge hall, a figure in ominous black armor sits silently on a stone throne. It is a skeleton knight. The realization hits Hayes like a ton of bricks, and she starts trembling in fear. Ketal calmly turns to his party. Is this skeleton different from the others we have faced? The reply is grim. Yes, it is strong, quite strong. It can expertly wield a sword and shield and is a knight-level fighter. They have no chance of winning. Hayes is terrified, thinking they cannot possibly handle this monster. Ketal asks, what happens if we cannot clear this and decide to retreat? Hayes explains that if they bail, they need confirmation from the territory. If it is deemed a reasonable retreat, it is no problem. A slight smirk appears on his face as he looks at his tense comrades. That is reasonable, he says, agreeing with them. Meanwhile, the skeleton knight remains on its throne, its entire body pulsing with some seriously bad vibes. Alright, deep in the dungeon, we've got the final boss. A skeleton knight glowing with a menacing purple aura. It stands its ground, ready to throw down with our hero, Ketal. And Ketal just smirks. A skeleton that can hold its own form? Fascinating. My guy is easily amused. The skeleton knight doesn't care. It raises its massive sword, preparing to turn him into paste. Before anyone can even blink, the knight leaps into the air and bam! It unleashes a devastating energy wave. Hayes throws up a golden barrier. She's trying her best, but you can tell it's not enough. And it shatters. But it's Alessandro to the rescue. He uses his shield to block the party. The whole group is sent tumbling. They are completely and utterly outclassed here. Ketal seems surprised for a split second. Even the party's tank Alessandro can't believe the insane power behind that single blow. Realizing its opponents are basically ants, the knight lunges forward to finish the job. But this time, Ketal is ready for it. No more standing around looking impressed. He meets the attack with a single devastating punch that sends a shockwave through the dungeon. The knight is sent flying backward and is completely deleted from existence. His party members can only stare. Their jaws are on the floor and their brains have officially short-circuited. Ketal just casually dusts off the dirt from his hands. Is that all? After that one-punch demolition, the party finds the real prize. A big old glimmering treasure chest. Ketal turns to Kasan and asks him to unlock it. Kasan panics immediately. No way. The lock is way too high level for his current skills. As Kasan explains that they'll have to leave the loot behind, Ketal just winds up and punches the chest. The chest bursts open, leaving Kasan and the rest of the party completely speechless. Again, Ketal just grins, saying this way is much better, and tells a dumbfounded Kasan to handle the loot. Poor Kasan is left utterly bewildered. If you could just break it, why did you even ask him in the first place? Alright, having cleared the dungeon, the party emerges from a cave entrance into a bright sunny forest. And suddenly, poof, the cave entrance behind them just collapses. Kasan explains that a perfect clear makes the dungeon disappear, which also means there was no secret room. The idea of a secret room just makes Ketal grin. That sounds fun too. This guy just wants more things to punch. Back at the city gate, the guard is shocked to see them return so quickly. He was expecting them to be paced. He nervously asks how the dungeon was. Ketal gives him a beaming thumbs up and says it was satisfying. The guard begins the official entry procedure, which involves interviewing each member of the party separately. He asks Hayes if the barbarian should be allowed to stay. After a moment, she hesitantly agrees. See, the guard's real job is to weed out dangerous elements, but both Kasan and Alessandro vouch for Ketal. They confirm that despite his monstrous strength, he didn't harm the party. The guard realizes he's not a typical barbarian. When it's Ketal's turn, he has nothing but praise for his teammates, calling them all excellent and reliable. This is highly unusual for the guard. Forcing strangers to party up almost never ends on good terms like this. Convinced, the guard grants them entry into the city, but he warns Ketal to stay out of trouble. He hands over the dungeon reward, a heavy bag of gold. Usually the guards, confiscate the loot, but this time the guard decides to give it to them. Ketal happily takes the bag and declares they'll split it fairly 4 ways. The others immediately try to refuse. They know they did basically nothing, but Ketal insists the reward must be shared. With that settled, he cheerfully suggests they all go for a celebratory drink. The trio can only force some very awkward smiles and agree to go along with it. The moment he's out of earshot, they're practically in tears, begging to be released from this terrifying ordeal. Watching them go, the guard reflects on what he just saw. A barbarian who can fell a skeleton knight in one single hit. He's monstrously strong. We're talking at least knight level, or maybe even higher. This wasn't just any barbarian. He's the barbarian of legend. An alien existence in this world. Having made up his mind, the guard decides this is way above his pay grade. He has to report this to his lord. Later that night, at a grand estate, a powerful figure is writing a report by candlelight. There's a sudden knock on the door. A voice from a throne bids the person to enter. Inside a lavish hall, the guard from the city gate approaches the throne. With a sharp click of his heels, he addresses the man, "My lord." The man, Luke Barkin, lord of this domain, looks up from his work. "What is it?" he asks, his expression impossible to read. The first captain of the guard stands at attention, getting straight to the point. "A barbarian has appeared in the domain." Lord Barkin's voice booms, "So did you grant him permission?" The guard captain is sweating buckets, trying to explain himself. "I judged that it wouldn't be a major issue." Lord Luke Barkin, looking like he is about to fire someone, is not buying it. "Then what is the problem?" He snaps. The captain finally cracks. He is strong, he admits. "Like might overthrow your kingdom strong." Now Barkin is interested. He leans forward, all ears. "How strong are we talking?" The answer is absolutely insane. Apparently, this mystery man one-shotted a skeleton knight. Just poof. Gone. Barkin is floored. You see, a skeleton knight is a big deal. It usually takes a whole team of pros to even scratch one, and this guy did it in one hit. But then he remembers the guy is a barbarian and scoffs. Clearly, he thinks barbarians are just big, dumb walking muscles. So he grills the captain. Are you telling me this brute is a first-rate warrior? The captain basically says, yep, probably. He even admits the guy could be a tier above that. The sweat is practically a waterfall now. And this, folks, is what we call a political nightmare. An unknown, super-powered warrior roaming your turf? Big yikes for any ruler. Barkin decides to rip the band-aid off. Bring him to me. The captain just about has a heart attack. Are you sure about that, boss? But the Lord has got a point. Leaving a walking nuke unchecked is a bad idea. He needs to size this guy up personally. The captain warns him it is risky, but Barkin just smirks and gestures behind his throne. Do not worry, I've got backup. Barkin turns to his Shadow Knight. So what do you think? The knight clenches his fist, dripping with arrogance. He is just a barbarian, he scoffs. An ignorant brute with a bit of luck. He then flexes that he was trained by the great swordmasters himself, so obviously this barbarian is nothing more than a bug to be squashed. That is all Barkin needs to hear. He gives the final order, bring me the barbarian. I will handle this. Meanwhile, the ignorant brutes in question, Ketal is absolutely destroying an all-you-can-eat buffet. His new party members can only stare in silent, traumatized horror. Their faces are a perfect meme. Ketal, completely oblivious, slams his mug down. This food is great, my treat, guys. Dig in. They respond with the most forced, pained laughter you have ever heard. Ketal then puts Alessandro on the spot. You are a holy knight, huh? So where was all that holy power back in the dungeon? Ouch. Alessandro starts sweating again, explaining that he was in training so his holy power hasn't awakened yet. Ketal just bluntly calls it a shame. Zero social skills, this guy. Next target, Hayes. You worship Colossia, right? Is there a temple around here? Hayes awkwardly explains that her goddess is the deity of lies and deceit. So, yeah, not a lot of fan clubs or mega churches. She quickly changes the subject to the million-dollar question. So, just how ridiculously strong are you? The other two snap to attention, curious. Ketal just stares back, a chicken bone hanging out of his mouth, completely clueless. He basically says, I do not know, I just got here. Then he asks them, how strong is a skeleton knight anyway? The man has no frame of reference. Hayes gives him the rundown. A second-rate warrior can barely fight one. A first-rate warrior could probably win like he did. Ketal just goes, huh, so that's considered second-rate. Suddenly, a trembling voice calls out, excuse me. It's the shop owner, and he is terrified, stammering that they are closing. He probably wants this monster out of his tavern. Our boy cheerfully agrees to leave and asks if anyone wants to hang out later. Oh, you sweet, simple man. In perfect synchronized terror, the other three basically scream that they have to go wash their hair for the next 10 years. Ketal gives a friendly wave. See you next time. Meanwhile, they are all thinking, let us never, ever see you again. And I do not blame them. Finally, free of his terrified friends, Ketal finds a room and collapses onto a bed. For him, this is pure luxury. He feels very lucky he could afford a room with his dungeon loot. After living in the snow, a lumpy mattress is basically a 5-star resort. He starts thinking about his future. He is finally out of the wilderness and wants to actually live a little, experience the world. His bucket list is classic adventurer stuff. See the Elf Kingdom, visit the Magic Tower, check out the capital, you know, the touristy spots. He falls asleep dreaming about all these. The next day, he's woken bright and early by banging on his door. He stumbles out of bed and swings the door open. And look who it is. It is our favorite sweaty guard captain from the castle. Ketal is shirtless, looking like a walking mountain of muscle, and just grunts. What? The poor captain practically jumps out of his armor. The captain takes a deep breath and delivers the message. The Lord wants to see you. Well, this should be interesting. Okay, so the big boss of this entire territory wants to have a little chat with our boy Ketal. And of course he grins and accepts immediately. He's a fanboy in a brute's body after all. He's like, cool, let me just grab a shirt. The poor guard is just sweating, thinking this has to be a trap. Why did he say yes so easily? So they start walking through this bustling fantasy town, and Ketal is just soaking it all in. He only saw it at night before, but the daytime graphics are apparently pretty impressive. He hits the poor, flustered guard with a cheesy grin and a big thumbs up. He's all like, if this is a lucky fantasy, sign me up. The guard looks like he wants to just disappear. Not much time left on his shift. He'll just try not to make eye contact with the barbarian as much as he can. Finally, they get to the big doors. I've brought the barbarian, my lord. The massive doors swing open, revealing the lord himself, gesturing them inside. Ketal steps onto this ridiculously long, fancy red carpet. Talk about a VIP entrance. The lord extends a hand, introducing himself as Luke Barkin, the ruler of this land. And get this, Ketal actually shakes his hand and gives a slight bow. Even introduces himself properly. Lord Barkin's brain just short-circuits. A barbarian bowing? It does not compute. Barbarians never bow their heads. It's a sign of weakness. He was expecting some savage, not this polite dude. Barkin tries to play it cool. Well, look at you learning some manners. Then he gestures for Ketal to have a seat. Ketal takes a look around the super lavish room, geeking out over the classic medieval castle aesthetic, but then his eyes lock onto something. Uh-oh. It's a knight in full-on shining armor just standing there. And our boy's inner nerd is screaming right now. He is totally starstruck seeing a real-life fantasy knight. But when you're a barbarian, simping hits different. The knight's eyes widen in surprise. He's sure about it. This look is bloodlust. He can't believe this barbarian would reveal this much bloodlust in his lord's presence. Oh, if he only knew the truth. The knight is absolutely furious. He thinks this guy is dead and his hand immediately goes for his sword. But before things get messy, Lord Barkin cuts in saying he just has a few questions. Ketal is sipping tea like it's nothing. As you wish. What do you want to know? The Lord's first question is a big one. Where did you come from? Ketal gives a little smile and answers all cryptically. I come from the coldest place, a world covered in white. And bam! Both the Lord and his knight look completely shocked. He's talking about the legendary white snowfield. Yep, this confirms it. Barkin is sitting across from the barbarian of legend. Barkin says it's hard to believe, but Ketal is just chilling. He's like, believe it or not, your call, buddy. So Lord Barkin switches it up. Alright, let me ask this. How strong are you? But what he is really asking is, are you going to be a problem for me? Ketal points out that's the wrong question. He has zero context for the power levels in this new world. The Lord and his knight exchange a look. I see a plan forming here. So Barkin proposes a classic test of strength. Friendly spar with his knight for a nice reward. You could literally see Ketal's ears perk up at that. The Lord has to add, not to the death, okay? Let's keep it clean. Ketal just grins. Sounds good to me. The Lord seems a little surprised he agreed so fast, but Ketal is totally psyched. He gets to fight a real fantasy knight with aura powers. This is better than any video game. Lord Barkin clenches his fist thinking, yep, a barbarian is a barbarian. All they care about is a good fight. Oh, you're a poor, misunderstood MC. And just like that, we cut to a massive arena. Lord Barkin is watching from his private box seats. Down below, Ketal and the knight are facing off, ready to go. The knight looks super serious, while Ketal looks like a kid on Christmas morning. From his throne, the Lord gives the signal. Let's begin, and try not to kill each other, please. A bell rings, and the knight draws his sword. He tells Ketal it is an honor for him to witness his swordsmanship. Ketal agrees, I'd prefer that too. But oh snap, the knight is officially triggered. He's thinking, I will show this punk. Time to show him the massive difference in their power levels. He powers up, erupting in a huge green aura. Now then, he taunts, what will you do? And with a massive swing, and his sword splits into 3 giant blades of pure energy right at Ketal. Ketal just looks up, completely stunned. Wait, there are 3 of them? Uh-oh. An illusion? Oh, heck no. Ketal is having a minor freakout, realizing all 3 of those glowy green swords are 100% real. Was this what they called swordsmanship? Ketal wonders. The knight gets a little cocky, taunting Ketal. Is dodging all you can do? How cute. He admits it's impressive, but he's getting bored. Time to wrap this up. But right before the final blow, bam. Ketal just raises his hand and flicks a finger at the sword, shattering it instantly. The knight's brain completely short-circuits. Huh? What was that? Did he just break my sword? In a flash, Ketal closes the distance and grabs the knight straight by his chest plate and crumples it like paper. And with a mighty yeet, he hurls the fully armored knight clear across the hall like a tin can. Watching from his throne, Lord Luke Barkin is completely shook. His jaw is on the floor. The knight is down for the count in a massive crater. It took literally a single punch. Barkin cannot believe what he just saw. What kind of ridiculous power is that? Meanwhile, Ketal just smiles like it was nothing and asks, so are we done here? Lord Barkin needs a moment to reboot his brain before he quietly confirms, yes. His mind is racing. One-shotting a first-class knight? That's not just strong, that's straight up superhuman. A barbarian with those kinds of stats could completely break the game for the entire world. He decides it's time to phone a friend. A very specific friend with the title of Swordmaster. He's just wondering if the guy has even shown up yet and if this news will be interesting enough for him. And right on cue, a mysterious voice echoes through the room. You mean my interest? A window just breezes open and standing right there is some old man in a green robe. Very dramatic entrance. Barkin gives the old guy some serious side-eye. Your hobbies are still as weird as ever. Barkin just chuckles nervously, trying to play it off. Hey, everyone needs a little fun. And here's the name drop, folks. This is Swordmaster Kane. He wants to hear all about this interesting matter. Lord Barkin immediately shoots up and bows. Oh yeah, this guy is a big deal. We cut scene, and now we see the knight recovering in bed, probably feeling very sorry for himself. The door creaks open and Lord Barkin walks in to check on his walking L. The knight jolts awake in a panic, apologizing over and over for his terrible performance. But it's Kane's voice that cuts in. You should be apologizing to me. And plot twist. He's his master. Kane points out something strange. His armor got absolutely wrecked, but the knight himself doesn't have a single scratch. His conclusion? The barbarian wasn't a mindless brute. He controlled his power with insane precision just to spare him. That kind of control puts him way above a normal knight. He's at least at a superhuman level. And hearing this, both Barkin and the knight look like they've just seen a ghost. Barkin asks how the barbarian compares to Kane, who just scoffs. I'm a swordmaster. Brute strength can't touch this. But Barkin brings up a weird detail. Ketal had all that power, but there was no aura. not a single trace. Barkin confirms his theory. He believes Kital is from the infamous White Snowfield. This gets Kane thinking. He's heard legends about the people from that region, or maybe they aren't exactly people. Could he be a heteromorph, a non-human creature just walking around in plain sight? But Kane quickly dismisses that. A real monster would have just turned the night into a fine red mist without a second thought. Still, the big question remains. Why would someone from the literal edge of the world suddenly show up here? Kane brushes off the concern, muttering something cryptic about the Emperor and his weird requests. He tells Barkin it's nothing for him to worry about. Classic, it is above your pay grades line. The Swordmaster's focus shifts. So, is this Barbarian still around? Barkin confirms that he is. With a determined look, Kane decides it is time to go check this mystery man out for himself. Oblivious to what's happening, Kital is having a chat with a guard outside. The guard asks him the million-dollar question, what's next, big guy? He's got the cash reward, and Barkin promised that he's free to do what he wants in the territory. Kital is thinking an official ID would be a good start to make it easier to get around. The guard lays out his options. He could find a high-status sponsor to vouch for him, or he could become a mercenary. The guard explains that if he grinds enough achievements, the guild will officially recognize his identity. But most low-level mercs are just glorified errand boys. He thinks for a powerhouse like Kettle, getting a sponsor is the smarter play. But did Kettle listen? Of course not. His eyes light up. A mercenary, taking on quests and slaying monsters? He is so in. He asks with this huge, goofy grin, where do I go to become a mercenary? The poor guard is totally caught off guard, stammering that there's a guild hall nearby. Guide me, Kital says, hitting him with a full-power, sparkly anime smile. And the guard just melts. The poor guy never stood a chance. Here's the thing, though. The reality of being a merc is not some grand adventure. They're the lowest rung of society. Even the strongest adventurers often die in dungeons or get used to do a noble's dirty work. Which is why the bottom tier of mercenary society is crude, filthy, and very, very loud. Welcome to the Mercenary Guild Hall, where a full-on bar brawl is already in progress. The other mercs, they're just watching and placing bets. Meanwhile, at the reception desk, a woman with pink hair asks her colleague how the new recruits were doing today. Rosa, the blonde receptionist, just sighs. Hopeless. They're all just weirdos. The latest batch includes a disgraced holy knight, a super shady thief, and a nun who worships a questionable deity. Her friend is disappointed. Raza groans that no decent people ever show up, and the current mercs just break stuff. She starts daydreaming about a handsome prince on a white horse coming to rescue her. Girl, you are in the wrong story for that. And right on cue, the guild hall door creaks open. Raza looks up, and bam, a gigantic figure is looming over her desk. Not quite a prince, huh? It's Kital, smiling as he surveys the chaos. So this is the guild hall. The brawl instantly stops. The entire room goes dead silent. Everyone is just staring, jaws on the floor. A barbarian, Kettle, completely oblivious to the panic, slams his hands on the desk. I'm here because I want to become a mercenary. Raza is absolutely terrified, stammering as she asks him why on earth he would want to join. He explains it's a way to get official status. Raza confirms it, but warns him it'll take a lot of grinding to get there. The registration costs 5 silver coins. He gives his name, but admits he has no idea how old he is. Raza just shrugs and types in a random age. All right, your registration is complete. Here is your mercenary badge. Kettle takes the badge, and without missing a beat, he says, enlist me. He's eager to start immediately, asking about available quests. She shows him the list of jobs he can actually accept as a total newbie. Kettle looks at the list, completely confused. Wait, is this all there is? The F-rank quests are literally just chores. Herb gathering, basement cleaning, sewer cleaning. This is not slaying dragons, my friend. Raza gets super nervous. Barbarians are known to be proud people. Is Kittle going to flip out over these lame jobs? As she starts to explain how he can rank up, Kittle just points to the list. I'll take this one. Rosa stares, confused. He's pointing directly at herb gathering, the most basic fetch quest in history. She asks if he's sure. He just crosses his arms and says, isn't this something that needs to be done? There's no problem. He then asks where he can find the herbs. Raza explains they're outside the village and gives him a little drawing of the plant to help. Got it. I'll be back shortly, Kittle says with a confident smile, taking the card. As he walks away, Raza is left completely stunned. What the? He's so chill about this. Meanwhile, her pink-haired friend rushes over and literally has to shake her back to reality. Out in the forest, Kittle finds the flowers and compares them to the drawing. Yep, looks right. He wonders if they're for treating wounds, thinking they look a little strange. Well then, he says, I've got my UV protective gear and I'm ready to begin my first mission, the absolute dork. About an hour later, he's back. Thump. He drops an enormous sack of herbs on the table, making Rosa jump. Will this much be enough? He asks cheerfully. Rosa is wondering if he just destroyed the whole flower field, but when she inspects them, she's shocked. They're all in perfect condition. She notes that most mercs just rip them up, but Kittle smirks. Despite how I look, I'm quite confident in my delicate touch. She hands him his reward for all that work. 1 single silver coin. That is barely enough to buy the cheapest meal in town. The grind is real, folks. Still, as Kettle looks at his earnings, he feels a sense of pride. It's the first money he's ever earned through honest work. And to be honest, he's quite touched about it. Oh, the feels. He tells Raza he's very satisfied and asks for another quest right away, leaving her completely baffled. She just can't understand it. This massive, intimidating barbarian, why does he look so happy picking flowers? Rosa, the guild receptionist, is just completely overwhelmed. Her final thought? Man, I think this new mercenary is weird too. So, after flower picking, basement cleaning, and a lovely stroll through the sewers, our boy Kettle is on a roll. He points right to his next F-rank quest, warehouse cleaning. Raza, the receptionist, is just about to have a meltdown. After the herbs, this is his third straight cleaning gig. She looks at this mountain of a man smiling like he just won the lottery and has a thought. Wait a minute, does he actually like cleaning? Slapping on the most strained customer service smile in history, she nervously stamps his request form. You do you, big guy. A few moments later, Kettle arrives at the warehouse ready to get his hands dirty, or, well, clean. He finds the owner waiting for him. A simple woman in a white hood, probably expecting a scrawny kid looking for pocket change. Instead, she gets Kettle, who beams at her and announces, I've come to clean the warehouse. And the poor woman's soul just about leaves her body. Her face says it all, total, unfiltered horror. He asks if she's the owner and she can barely stammer out a yes. All her brain can process is a barbarian, but it turns out he's the best mover she's ever hired. Lifting massive crates is literally no problem for him. Easy peasy. Next up on his chore list, street sweeping. He notes that controlling his superhuman strength was tricky at first, but he got it down. Little does he know, he's got a stalker. From a window, Swordmaster Kane is watching through binoculars, completely baffled. Kane is losing his mind. This guy, Kettle, has enough power to topple a kingdom. Any nation would welcome him with open arms. And what's he doing with that power? Sweeping garbage off the street. And he's not even slacking, he's taking it 100% seriously. Kane is just speechless. Meanwhile, Keto wipes his brow, absolutely basking in the glory of a hard day's work. Ah, the satisfaction. He wakes up to a brand new day. He's a bit sore, sure, but he feels amazing. That honest work high is real, folks. He gets up and spots a small pouch by the table. He flashes back to Rosa, presenting him with his pay. Good work on your first day, Mr. Kettle. Here is your reward for completing all 15 requests. His eyes go wide. A whole pouch of 15 silver coins. This might be the most money he's ever seen. He is absolutely glowing with happiness. Thanks. I'll be back again tomorrow, he says, grinning from ear to ear. Man, that memory brings a smile to his face. He thinks, time to begin my second day in civilization. The next morning, Kettle is taking a nice stroll through town, oblivious to the freaked out faces of the villagers. He's walking with the confidence of a man who just got paid, when suddenly he grinds to a halt. He looks up and his eyes widen with curiosity. Is that a library? A little bell jingles as he walks inside. The librarian turns around to greet the new patron, and she immediately lets out a blood-curdling scream, because a shadowy 7-foot barbarian is asking if he can please read some books. Sometime later, after the screaming has subsided, Ketel is sitting peacefully, completely lost in a book. The librarian just watches him from her desk, frozen. Her brain cannot compute what she is seeing. Outside, our favorite stalker Kane is back on the job and he is just as stunned. The savage barbarian is in a library, reading. He starts to wonder if maybe Snowfield barbarians are just super cultured, or if this one is just a massive weirdo. Kettle finishes a history book and neatly sums up the entire conflict. So the Empire won in the end. He remembers his friend Mylena saying she was heading to the kingdom at war with that same empire. Well, now he knows how that turned out for her. The book confirms the Empire is now a superpower, having basically turned the kingdom of Barkan into its personal puppet state. They've already swallowed half the human world and are still expanding. Talk about aggressive foreign policy. Kettle sits there for a moment just pondering the whole idea of world domination. But that's enough boring human stuff. He moves on to what he really came for, the book on non-human races. And he is absolutely thrilled to learn that all those fantasy creatures from legends are 100% real in this world. The book details all kinds of incredible places, like a dwarven cave overflowing with rare minerals and shiny loot. It also mentions a fairy village, a city of celestials floating in the sky, and the super-secret elven sanctuary, Elfozagrada. Apparently, Elfozagrada is a hidden holy land that nobody has ever managed to find. Kettle just smirks. In that case, I must have earned the extraordinary right to visit the elves' sanctuary. But as he turns the page, his face just drops. What is this? Are there more places like the White Snowfield? He's found the section on demon realms. Places humans can't go, filled with twisted monsters. And there are 5 major ones. The book lists them out: the Forest of Silence, the Fiery Abyss, the Deep Sea, and something called the Deep Hole. Fun vacation spots. And what do you know? The 5th one is the White Snowfield. Yup, his home sweet home. The book says that while these realms have terrifying monsters, they can't actually expand their influence into the human world. Kettle is just floored. He's thinking, just how big is this world? The White Snowfield was enormous, and there are more places just like it. Having learned all he can, he neatly stacks the books and gets up to leave, making the librarian jump out of her skin. He gives her a friendly smile on his way out. Thanks, that was very informative. With one final, terrifyingly polite smile, Kettle is gone, the little bell jingling as the door closes. He heads straight back to the mercenary guild, cheerfully asking a very startled Rosa if she has any new jobs for him. And his face just lights up with pure, unadulterated excitement as she hands him a new quest form. The man loves to grind. Meanwhile, Swordmaster Kane is still watching from the shadows, and he has to admit it. This guy is just plain weird. After 2 full days of surveillance, he's seen enough weirdness to last a lifetime. It's finally time to meet this man in person. Walking through town at night, Kettle is feeling pretty good about his day's work. He glances at his pouch of coins. Hey, even the small jobs are adding up to some decent loot. If he keeps this pace up, he figures he'll be a recognized mercenary in no time at all. Meanwhile, in a dark alley, a mysterious figure watching him from the shadows. The figure steps out, blocking his path. Kettle stops, turning around with a questioning look. Well, look who it is. It's the old man from before, Swordmaster Kane, looking super grim under his hood. But Kettle is completely calm and just says, "You've been following me around all day, haven't you?" Kane is stunned silent. The Master of Stealth just got called out by this guy. Awkward. Kettle crosses his arms, asking what he wants. And Kane is just internally screaming, "You notice me?" He's certain he completely hid his presence using aura, thinking it should be impossible for anyone to sense him. Seeing the silent cloaked man, Kettle's brain makes a huge leap. He cracks his knuckles and asks, "Are you maybe a bandit?" Kane's face is a perfect picture of absolute confusion right now. Taking the silence as a yes, Kettle figures he was right. Even the nicest towns still have bandits, I guess. Kane starts to deny it, but then stops. I mean, would this kid even believe he's a famous swordmaster? Kettle looks at him with pure pity. Do you really need to turn to robbery in your old age? The economy must be really bad. Oh, sick burn. Then a brilliant idea strikes our boy. Bringing in a bandit would be a great achievement for his resume. Kane just stares, completely bewildered. How did we even get here? But then an idea dawns on him. If Kettle thinks he's a bandit, this is the perfect chance to test his strength. Just as he makes up his mind, Kettle vanishes right before his eyes. Poof, gone. Kane whips his head around, totally shocked. He's gone. In an instant, Kettle reappears directly behind him, eyes glowing as he reaches for Kane. Realizing he's about to be grabbed, Kane unleashes a blast of green energy, blocking the attack. Kettle stops and a huge grin spreads across his face. Oh, not bad, old man. You're pretty fast. Kane lands a few feet away, his mind completely reeling. He cannot believe it. No way. He almost caught me. Even more shocking, he realizes Kettle moved that fast with pure physical stats. He couldn't sense any aura at all. Kettle just stands there, smiling, completely unbothered by any of this. Kane grits his teeth. Okay, this isn't a test anymore, he is going all out. But once again, in the blink of an eye, Kettle is gone. This kid is just way too fast. Before Kane can even process it, Kettle has grabbed his arm. The Swordmaster is in total disbelief. He had his senses on high alert and still couldn't react in time. The grip is immense. It feels like his arm is lodged in a boulder, his entire body being dragged against his will. Straining against the hold, Kane realizes he can't even compete in a power struggle. The strength gap is just insane. In that case, he has no choice. He'll go all out and release his power. Kettle notices a strange light from Kane's hand right before a massive wave of energy erupts from the Swordmaster. The blast creates a blinding flash of light, forcing Kane back as well. He lands, panting, his hand still crackling with residual energy. Kettle stands completely unfazed, saying that bandits these days have all sorts of tricks. Kane is furious. Why does this big lug keep calling me a damn bandit? Kane is fuming. He just used mana materialization, an elite warrior technique, and this kid thinks it's some cheap trick. But Kettle just stares back with a wide, impressed, almost cartoonish grin, which leaves Kane speechless. Kane cannot comprehend it. His attack should shred hardened steel, but Kettle doesn't even have a single scratch. He stares at Kettle's absurd physique, wondering how he's tanking such a powerful attack with his bare skin. Kettle takes a step forward. I think it's about time to finish this. In response, Kane finally reaches for his sword. But before his fingers can even close around the hilt, boop, Kettle's index finger is already there, stopping the draw completely. The Swordmaster's eyes nearly pop out of his head in shock. This is just not possible. He strains with all his might, but he can't overcome the pressure of that single finger. He looks up into Kettle's eyes, which are once again glowing with that unnerving purple light. A single tear of despair rolls down Kane's face. He thinks to himself, this is the end for me, and with one swift chop, it is all over. Kettle holds up the unconscious Swordmaster. So this is what a bandit in a fantasy world looks like. A few minutes later, he's at the guardhouse. Barbarian, what's the meaning of this? Stammers the guard. Our boy Kettle just strolls up, dragging the legendary Swordmaster Kane like a sack of groceries. The guard is trying to compute what he's seeing. Did this random barbarian just solo a superhuman? I caught a thief, Kettle announces. Okay, the guard can't hide his shock anymore. He then asks if turning in this loot will count towards his mercenary quest completion. The guard's brain just blue-screened. Error 404. Logic not found. He's thinking, that's Swordmaster Kane, the legend, and he's being handled like a bag of dirty laundry. The poor guy finally manages to get a few words out. He's not a thief. And Kettle's brilliant detective mind immediately concludes, so you know him. If he's not a thief, then he must be an accomplice. Panicking, the guard snaps to attention and bows to the unconscious body. I greet you, Swordmaster Kane of the Gehentra Kingdom. And you can almost see the single gear in Kettle's head finally start to turn. He looks down at the old man. A guy called Swordmaster is just a common thief? Nah, he's not buying it for a second. That's impossible. He's a thief. He attacked me for my silver coins. The guard is practically begging him at this point. No, he really is the Swordmaster. I'd never mistake that face. As the guard tries to reason, Kettle comes to his own galaxy brain conclusion. Is Swordmaster some kind of cool nickname for thieves? The guard just stares. What the heck are you even saying? After a long, awkward pause, the guard decides this is way above his pay grade and he's going to report it to the Lord. Sometime later, Lord Luke Barkin is absolutely losing his mind. What? Lord Kane was defeated? We get a super awkward apology session. It's a whole lot of my bad and no, it was my fault. The two of them just sit there in a silence so thick you could cut it with a very uncomfortable knife. Watching from the doorway, Lord Barkin is trying to process all this. He expected a fight, sure, but he never thought the Swordmaster would get absolutely bodied. The conclusion is simple and honestly pretty terrifying. This barbarian is stronger than a Swordmaster. Even if Kane is the rookie Swordmaster, the title isn't a joke. Defeating one means Kettle is a completely unpredictable powerhouse. This is giving him a headache, so he bails. Seems there's been a misunderstanding. I'll let you two have a private chat, he declares. And exits, closing the doors, and the room goes right back to that awkward silence. You can just feel the secondhand embarrassment. Kane takes a shaky sip of tea, his pride completely deleted from the server after that beatdown. He tries to pull himself together, making a formal reintroduction. I am Kane, the Swordmaster. And Kettle, ever the genius, asks if Swordmaster is his last name. Kane has to explain that when you're that OP, you don't need a surname. Kettle just nods, then asks about that weird energy attack from earlier. He wants to know if it's a special skill. You mean this little thing? Kane asks, casually powering up his hand with that green energy. Suddenly, Kettle's eyes light up. He admits he thought it was a dumb parlor trick, but now that he knows it's a Swordmaster skill, it's super cool. Kane gives him the lore drop. It's called Aura, and it's a manifestation of a base energy called the Mystic. The light bulb finally clicks for Kettle. So that thing back then was Aura, and now he's like a kid on Christmas morning. How can I learn to use that? Kane breaks it down for him. Mystic is the raw power source. Swordsmen use it to make aura, while mages use it for mana. Kettle gets this sly little grin. So, anyone can learn to use this mystic stuff? Can you teach me? Kane is just stunned silent. Kettle leans in with a smile and says, please, teach me. And what can you do? Kane agrees. But he's still confused. Why ask me for help? You're clearly stronger than I am. Kettle just admits he knows absolutely nothing. He just swings wildly without any knowledge. And just like that, Kane's fighting spirit is back. This is his chance. He can teach this barbarian and restore his own shattered honor. He puffs out his chest. Very well. A sword master is nothing without his sword. Without it, I am but half a man. Kettle nods seriously and says, I thought so. No wonder you seem so weak. You didn't have your sword. And Kane's soul leaves his body all over again. He keeps twisting the knife too. I did think it was weird. If you had used your sword, maybe you would have won. Kettle gives him a big friendly smile, totally oblivious. Meanwhile, Kane is just weeping internally, knowing his self-esteem is about to be ground into dust. And with his fragile ego barely taped back together, Swordmaster Kane begins the lesson. He's trying to explain the difference between simple sword swinging and his fantasy swordsmanship, which uses the power of aura. He says the big selling point of his style is making illusions and reality one and the same. A pretty bold claim, my friend. He quizzes Kettle, asking, when you fought my disciple, what did you see? And Kettle immediately remembers the guy's sword splitting into 3 totally real attacks. Ah, so that's materialization, Kettle says, understanding it instantly. He even correctly guesses it's a style focused on finesse, not brute force, which Kane confirms through gritted teeth. Kane puffs out his chest again, explaining that combining a sword with aura is the only path to becoming a true sword master. To demonstrate, he channels his energy and bam! His sword ignites with a vibrant green aura. Gotta admit, it looks pretty cool. Kettle's eyes go wide with pure excitement. Ooh, so that's aura? A totally flustered Kane can only stammer. Yes, Kane still can't believe he's teaching a barbarian this stuff. He figures showing is way better than telling with this guy. I'll just show you myself, he says, taking his stance. His focus is absolute. This is his big moment to shine. He unleashes a powerful downward slash and whoosh, a fan of green energy attack screams across the entire hall, tearing up the floor. Kettle just watches intently, not even flinching. The strike, it's split into 5 parts. As the dust settles over the now demolished floor, Kane explains that lots of people can create illusions with aura, but only my swordsmanship allows them to take physical form. He looks so proud of himself, asking, what do you think? And Kettle delivers the most devastatingly simple reply in history, I think I can do it too. Kane just sputters, calling it nonsense. He's internally screaming about the lifetime of grinding it took him to master this art. It's faster if I just show you, Kettle says, completely cutting off the old man's internal crisis. Then he hefts a massive battle axe, leaving Kane totally bewildered. An axe? What is happening right now? Kettle just plants his feet and swings that giant axe in a blur of motion so fast it creates multiple clear after images. Kane is stunned silent. A sword strike, then the horrible truth dawns on him. He just moved fast using brute strength. Kettle slams the axe down and boom. A monstrous shockwave tears a trench through the entire hall in a fiery blast. Kane's face is a perfect mask of pure, unadulterated shock. Meanwhile, smoke is just gently curling off Kettle's axe. With a confident smirk, our boy Kettle asks, "What do you think?" He knows exactly what he just did. Kane is trying to process this. It looked like an illusion made real, but it was just overwhelming speed and power. Even he was almost fooled. He tells Kettle it was just a simple swing, but Kettle counters that if the result is the same in a real fight, does the technique really matter? And Kane is left completely speechless. He knows Kettle isn't wrong, and the blow to his pride is just massive. Refusing to accept this defeat, Kane shouts, "Then how about this?" In a flash of green energy, he creates several solid clones of himself. Now Kettle is genuinely surprised. He's looking at them like, his body split apart. This is new for him. Kane and his clones all strike as one, their combined attack gouging a massive smoking crater in the floor. Kane proudly explains that this is a technique achieved through ultimate control of aura. Then he challenges Kettle, "Can you replicate it?" In response, Kettle doesn't say a word. He just plants his feet and hefts that giant axe one more time. He begins to spin, faster and faster, becoming a literal vortex of raw, destructive power. This is not looking good for Kane. The spinning intensifies, whipping up a tornado inside the building that tears the very stones from the walls. It's absolute chaos. When it all subsides, Kettle stands calmly in the middle of the utter devastation. What do you think? This is the final straw for our swordmaster. Kane just collapses, shaking and wailing about his life's work being completely meaningless. He's completely broken. The legendary swordmaster is reduced to a sobbing wreck on the ground. It's both tragic and hilarious. Kettle looks down at the mess of a man and remarks, "Your mental fortitude is weaker than I expected." Switching to therapist mode, he offers an unexpected compliment. "Your swordsmanship is amazing." Kettle admits, "I merely swung my axe quickly. That's not real swordsmanship. That's just brute force. But the swordsmanship you showed wasn't an afterimage, it was real. I can never truly reach that level of mystery." And that little bit of validation is all Kane needs. His spirit is instantly restored. He's right, my swordsmanship still holds great value. He declares that materializing illusion and reality is a special technique that only he can perform. His ego is back online. With fire in his eyes, he's thinking, "This isn't a flaw in my technique, but that barbarian is just insane." He reasons that no normal human could possibly move fast enough to make after images solid without using aura, which to be fair is true. Seeing that the old man is recovered, Kettle asks again, "Can you teach me true sword techniques?" Kane quickly collects himself. My apologies, I got a little emotional for a moment." With his pride mostly restored, Swordmaster Kane finally begins Kettle's lesson for real this time. He explains that to control aura, you must first awaken to the concept of mystery. It's the secret sauce of this world. No wizard or swordsman can reach the highest levels without it, unless you're a cleric getting your powers directly from the gods. Kettle asks if divine power is different from this. Kane agrees, clarifying that a cleric's power are granted by the gods, not a reflection of their own personal stats. Kettle seems to be absorbing all this new information with some serious interest. Kane continues describing mystery as the innate power within a person. How you control it determines everything about your abilities. Whether it's wielding aura, mana, or spirits, awakening this inner power is the first and most crucial step on the path to greatness. He reveals there are 5 stages to mastering mystery, and the most basic one is simply called sensing mystery. Kettle asks if anyone can do it, but Kane shuts that down fast. Without talent, you can't even feel it. Sorry, noobs. In fact, Kane says, those who can just barely sense it are called third-rate. Talk about a harsh ranking system. Depending on your control over this mystery stuff, everyone in the world is assigned one of 5 different ranks. The ranks go from third-rate to second-rate, first-rate, superhuman, and finally the legendary hero class. As Kettle hears this, you can see a flicker of recognition in his eyes. He seems to be recalling something from his past. Kane just waves it off, saying the ranks are a loose guide, and tells Kettle not to worry about it for now. With the lecture finally over, Kettle confirms he understands everything. Kane announces it's time to begin the practical lesson. Kane stares intently, ready to guide our boy Kettle through the very first stage, sensing mystery. Let's see how this goes. Alright, class is in session. Kane tells our boy to awaken a new sense he's never felt before. The instructions are simple. Feel the wind, feel the earth. Basically become one with nature. Kettle concentrates so hard, but then he just pops his eyes open and says, "Yeah, I can't feel anything though." Kane is completely floored. He figured a guy with maxed out physical stats would sense this easily. He mutters that strong people usually have a better knack for it. Kettle, my friend, is the exception to the rule. Kettle confirms that no one from his snow-covered homeland has ever sensed this mystical stuff. Time for plan B. Kane decides to give him a jumpstart by sending his own energy into Kettle's body. Kettle's eyes light up. "You're transferring aura?" Kane just gives him a vague, something like that. Looking starstruck, our boy agrees. He's only ever read about this in novels. Kane places a hand on his back and tells him to just relax and feel the flow of mana. But the second he makes contact, zap, Kane gets a massive shock. What kind of body is this? He says it feels like touching solid rock. He's seriously questioning if Kettle is even human at this point. Kettle snaps him out of his trance and Kane awkwardly apologizes for spacing out. Getting serious, Kane starts pouring his aura in, hoping to awaken the dormant power inside Kettle. Green energy flows into our boy's body. Kane feels pretty confident this is going to work. But then, something's not right. Kane stops, looking completely baffled. He can't find the path, he can't even get deep enough to look for it. It's just unreachable. From Kane's point of view, it's like trying to find a Wi-Fi signal in a black hole. It's a vast, empty abyss. He finally has to give up, realizing this is a total dead end. Kane pulls back and Kettle immediately freaks out. "What do you mean it won't work? Do I have no talent?" Kane tries to explain. It's not about talent. Kettle has to find the path himself to awaken his power. Kettle gets it, but he's worried. "So, are you saying I can't sense the mystical at all?" Kane struggles for an answer. He couldn't even check for potential because Kettle's body is just built different. Basically, Kettle's body is so ridiculously dense that it literally acts like a shield, blocking the aura from getting inside. He admits he's never seen anything like it. Pure physical power nerfing magic. That's a new one. Kettle slumps, disappointed. "So I can't gain mystical power?" Kane admits he doesn't know for sure. He suggests our boy go bother some other swordmasters or maybe the wizards at the magic tower. Kane apologizes, but Kettle just brushes it off, saying it's okay and there's still a chance. Then he breaks into a wide grin, sincerely thanking Kane for all the help. What a good dude. Kane watches him, thinking about all the other barbarians he's met. Total monsters who live for violence. But Kettle is different. Seizing the moment, Kane asks if he'd consider settling down in the kingdom. He offers him loyalty, a title, and a high-ranking position. The whole 9 yards. Kettle's response is simple and blunt. "I refuse. I have no intention of belonging to anything." Kane gets this plan in his head that if he could get this barbarian's allegiance, they could be free from the Empire. He tries one last time, dangling the promise of becoming a noble in front of him. Kettle just smiles, totally unfazed by the offer. "I'll do things my own way," he says. Kane is shocked for a second, but then a look of understanding crosses his face. He gets it. Our boy gives one last, genuine thank you, promising he won't forget the favor. As Kettle walks away, Kane realizes that trying to control him was a ridiculous idea. No one can control this man. He's a true free agent, acting solely on his own will. He's a total enigma, which makes him potentially more dangerous than any barbarian he's ever met. Sighing, Kane looks out over the castle, his thoughts shift to the Emperor and his hyper-focus on a Demon Realm expedition. A few minutes later, Lord Barkin sits at his desk, fully aware of the Emperor's plans. Kane reports that people are dying for nothing, and guesses the Emperor wants to be like that ancient Emperor. But Kane just brushes the thought aside, deciding it's a problem for another day. He continues his grim report. The Empire hasn't even conquered all human territory, making this whole thing foolish. Barkin gets the picture. It's only a matter of time before the Emperor's hungry gaze falls on them. Kane confirms his fears. Since their land is technically part of the Empire, a summons could come at any time. Leaning back, Kane sighs and complains about the world and the half-crazy Emperor causing problems. Suddenly, Barkin's whole mood shifts. He leans forward, dead serious, and asks Kane about a certain rumor. And Kane confirms it. One by one, the movements of demons are becoming more noticeable. Dungeons are appearing more frequently, and whispers say something is leaking out from the demon realm. Whatever is happening, you can bet it's not going to be good for humanity. Then Kane stops. But if you think about it, isn't it strange that the barbarian is also here? Barkin agrees. That's a very good point. Kane pushes him for an answer, but all the Lord can say is, "I don't know." He explains that, at the very least, our boy Kettle hasn't been hostile towards them so far. But beyond that simple fact, everything else is a complete and total mystery. Meanwhile, the mystery man himself is just taking a casual stroll. But he starts to notice something is a little off. Yeah, everywhere he goes, people are parting like the Red Sea. They're literally grabbing their kids to get them out of his way. And what is our hero's brilliant conclusion? He thinks it's because of his clothes. Completely misunderstanding the situation, he's completely convinced his beast hide vest isn't civilized enough. So that settles it. Time for a major wardrobe upgrade. He eventually finds his way to a fancy-looking tailor shop. What could possibly go wrong? The tailor turns around and just about has a heart attack. There's a literal barbarian standing in his high-end store. Through his very real tears, the poor guy explains they don't have anything in Kettle's size. You think? But seeing Kettle's disappointed face, the tailor panics. He quickly offers to make him something custom. And just like that, Kettle's mood does a complete 180. He's thrilled and tells the guy to go for it. The tailor agrees. But his mind is playing a highlight reel of all the ways this giant could end him if he messes up. On his way to the guild hall, something shiny on the ground catches his eye. Look at that. A small, shimmering blue orb. You know what that means, folks. It's time for a side quest. He gives it a closer look, totally intrigued by the swirling patterns inside. This thing looks pretty important. He figures he'll just ask about it at the guild and casually pockets the mysterious artifact. Once he's there, he shows the orb to Raza. He asks if she has any clue what this thing is. He places it right in her hand, explaining he just found it lying on the street. Rosa examines it. It's clearly crafted but valuable with no maker's mark. But then, her eyes start to glaze over. Suddenly, snap. Kettle breaks the spell. For a solid second, she just stares into space. The lights are on, but nobody's home. Kettle leans in, asking if she's okay. He says it looked like her mind was getting sucked right into the orb. Raza has no memory of it, but she can feel a strange energy coming from it. She offers to have it appraised. But our boy just laughs it off. He says figuring it out is part of the fun and asks for today's quests. She gives him a list of the usual F-rank jobs, cleaning and harvesting. And Kittle looks like he just won the lottery. After another glorious day of hard labor, Kettle is back in his room, feeling totally satisfied. He pulls out the strange orb again. He's still thinking about that bizarre effect it had on Raza. Suddenly, a faint voice whispers directly from the orb. It says, "Come to me." The voice keeps repeating, feeding him directions straight into his head. He figures it must be domination magic. The orb keeps pulsing with this creepy invitation, so naturally, he decides to go check it out. He follows the mental GPS to a dark, ominous cave. "I've arrived," he announces. "Where's the one who called me?" A sinister voice echoes back. It says another sacrifice has entered. It calls him a dumb barbarian, but a decent offering. And there he is, folks. The source of the voice is a terrifying skeletal mage, its eyes burning with blue flame. He's sitting on a throne inside a massive glowing ritual circle. His resurrection is finally at hand. Okay, so who is this bony fella on the throne? A long time ago, he was a super evil sorcerer playing puppet master from the shadows. He was the guy behind all the wars, a real menace. Of course, the heroes eventually caught on and came to hunt him down. But just as they were about to win, he pulled the oldest trick in the book. He ditched his body and stuffed his soul into a life vessel, becoming a lich. Now, he's basically immortal. As long as his little soul jar is safe, you can't kill him. To get his body back, he set up shop near this remote town. He scattered these shiny orbs to lure in easy sacrifices for his ritual. These orbs were basically magical batteries for his grand plan. You know, the usual world domination stuff. Everything was going perfectly, until a major wrench got thrown in his plans. Why is a barbarian here? He picked this middle-of-nowhere spot specifically to avoid strong guys like this, so a barbarian showing up is just plain weird. The Lich watches our boy through his magic crystal ball. He's like, "Well, you're a big fella. You'll make an excellent sacrifice." See, his magic orb has a neat little trick. It only hypnotizes people who haven't unlocked their own magic potential. So he just assumes our boy Kettle is a total magic-less nobody. A big dumb piece of meat for the grinder. So he sends out the spooky mental invitation. "Come on in, barbarian. Become the final piece of my glorious comeback tour." And Kittle just waltzes right up to the front door. A massive, imposing wooden door in the middle of a cave. He pushes it open, takes one step inside, and he immediately spots him. Standing right there is the man of the hour himself. A skeletal mage in fancy robes with eerie, glowing blue eyes. Kittle is completely fanboying. He whispers, "It's a real live lick." He is totally geeking out. He's like, "Wow, the ultimate fantasy story final boss. This is so cool." Now it is the Lich's turn to be confused. "What are you?" he demands, realizing the mind control totally failed. Kittle just glances at the piles of bones all over the floor. "Ah," he says, "so that's how you have been luring people in." The Lich still cannot sense any magic from him. He is absolutely convinced Kettle is just an ordinary barbarian. His only explanation? "You must have some super rare artifact that protects your mind." Kettle just gives him a blank stare. "I do not have anything like that, though." Our boy is honest to a fault. The Lich is done talking. His staff starts glowing. "You think you can fool me? If you had just obeyed, this would have been painless. But now I'll just have to crush you with force," he declares, raising his minions from the dead. "Go, my bony boys." And the newly armed skeletons charge right at him. Kettle isn't even bothered. He just smirks. An evil Lich hiding in a dungeon, huh? I think I get the picture. He casually slaps the skeleton with his bare hand, and it shatters instantly. The Lich is absolutely speechless. Kitol just shakes his hand and says, "You are a lot more shallow than I thought." Oh, that did it. The Lich is furious. "Let us see you talk big when I cut off your arms and legs." He sends in the whole squad this time. "Cut him down." Kettle just scoffs and cracks his knuckles. Bam! He punches the first skeleton straight into dust. Then he follows up with a powerful kick. Crunch! Another one bites the dust. Literally. "You bastard." The Lich seethes. "All right, playtime is over." His staff glows super bright as he pulls out his trump card. "Rise!" Kettle's eyes widen. A huge, fully armored skeleton knight appears, holding a massive sword and shield. And what does our boy do? He gets excited again. Since this one was created by a Lich, it might be different from the last one. "Kill him!" The Lich screams. The knight charges forward like a freight train. Kettle just grins and cracks his knuckles again. He is finally ready for a real fight. The knight swings its giant glowing sword, but Kettle just watches. Kettle thinks that a skeleton knight summoned by a lich is very unusual. He just winds up and, bam! A single punch completely shatters the knight's skull, sending the undead warrior into a shower of bone and rubble. So much for that real fight. The lich is left totally speechless. His bony jaw is practically on the floor watching this casual display of pure annihilation. As the dust settles, Kettle casually stomps on the knight's twitching hand, crushing it for good measure. A little overkill, my dude. He glances over his shoulder, looking completely... The lich desperately scans our boy, trying to figure out what his deal is. Who is this guy? But his magical scan comes up empty. No magic, no mana, not even a hidden artifact. The results just don't make any sense. Could it be? Did this barbarian really just defeat a top-tier undead with nothing but his bare fists? Is that even possible in this world? Deciding this barbarian is way too special to kill, the lich figures he'll have to get his own hands dirty. Consider it an honor, the lich says, floating down to the ground with all the drama of a final boss. Suddenly, Kettle cries out and stumbles back as he's enveloped by a black, dense fog. The lich's voice echoes through the cave. Yes, fear me, barbarian. You will pay for invading my sanctuary. But Kettle just looks confused. No, I only came because the orb called me. Weren't you the one who scattered it? And yep, the narrator confirms it. The lich basically sent out a spam email to lure strong people here, and Kettle clicked the link. The lich absolutely loses it. Shut up. I am the great mage who destroyed 5 kingdoms. I am Kartos Branula's Kessis. Kettle suddenly remembers the elf queen. He's starting to wonder if having a super long name is the trend around here. Done with the chit-chat, Kartos unleashes a giant vortex of dark magic. Become the foundation of my resurrection, the spell completely swallows Kettle. His eyes glaze over, swirling like he's been hypnotized. Kartos starts gloating. This is his special magic. It controls emotions and traps people in negativity until their mind breaks. He's absolutely certain that a simple barbarian with 0 magic resistance is completely doomed. Easy win, right? But something feels off. Realizing this barbarian is a special case, Kartos decides to capture him for study instead. He orders his minions forward. Another skeleton warrior crawls out of the ground, sword ready, and shuffles toward the zoned-out Kettle. But just as it gets close, Kettle's eyes flash with a menacing purple light. In a flash, he pivots and kicks the skeleton, instantly turning its entire torso into dust. Talk about a rude awakening. He turns to face the lich, looking completely fine. And once again, Kartos' jaw hits the floor. I think it might be broken this time. The lich just can't believe it. No, how is this possible? That mind control spell should have worked perfectly. Kettle just looks at him, unimpressed. Are you just gonna stand there watching? It's not working, dude. Ignoring him, the lich channels all his remaining power, chanting some seriously dramatic magic words. He unleashes his ultimate attack, a massive sphere of pure dark energy that looks like it could swallow the entire world. And how does Kettle react to this world-ending spell? His eyes are literally sparkling. He looks like a kid on Christmas morning. Kartos cackles. Victory is mine. But suddenly, he starts coughing his lungs out and collapses. Dude used up all his mana, but still, he's feeling pretty confident. There's just no way the barbarian survived an attack of that magnitude. He looks up, expecting to see a crater, but instead he freezes in absolute terror, because Kettle is standing right there without a single scratch on him. Impressive, but is this really all you got? Kartos is having a complete meltdown. He just used his most powerful spell, one that could break the mind of a great hero, and it did nothing. He demands to know what Kettle is, but our boy is just lost in thought. That was impressive, but I don't feel anything from it. The lich is paralyzed with fear. Kettle picks up his axe with a grim smile. I suppose it's my turn now. But just as Kettle's about to turn him into bone meal, the lich has an epiphany. A dark, creepy smile spreads across his skull, thinking, so that's how it is. The lich is now fully convinced Kettle knows his secret identity. He's like, you came here because you know who I am. So it's true then. Kettle is just standing there thinking, what in the world is this bag of bones babbling about? And then Kartos just lets out this massive villainous laugh. Oh, Empire, are you that afraid of me? I must admit, you're clever to track me this quickly. The guy's ego is completely off the charts. He starts screaming, but I will rise again. I will destroy your world once more. See, he's heard these rumors about a secret Empire project, a human production field where they basically grow super soldiers. And he's 100% sure Kettle is one of them. A weapon forged just to kill him. An assassin sent by the big bad Empire. Yeah, buddy, that's totally it. But even so, he's not going down without a fight. He announces his full, ridiculously long name. I am Kartos Branula's Kessis. I will kill you and destroy the Empire. And Kettle's reaction? He's just thinking, is this dude insane? Yes, Kettle. Yes, he is. Finally done with his monologue, the lich summons a glowing spectral urn. This, my friends, is his phylactery, his soul jar. He snatches the urn out of the air, ready to unleash his final trump card. Bam! A massive beam of pure magic erupts from the urn and slams right into Kettle's chest. Kettle's eyes go completely white. Is the spell actually working? The lich's plan is perfect. He's using the urn to shove his soul right into Kettle's body to possess him. It's a one-way trip, though. Once he's in, he's trapped in this new body unless he can become a lich, all over again. But hey, it's his only choice. He takes over, declaring, "Now this body belongs to me." But the moment he gets inside Kettle's mind, he realizes he's made a terrible mistake. He looks around like, what is this place? Is this really the Barbarian's subconscious? Just looking at this mental hellscape is enough to break his spirit. He can feel that something is deeply, deeply wrong. He's starting to doubt if the Empire really was behind this. As his soul starts getting ripped apart, he realizes, no, this can't be the Empire's doing. Not even they could create something this horrifying. It's actually breaking his mind. And with one last confused the great Lich Kartos is just deleted. Poof, gone forever. Back in the real world, Kittle is just scratching his head. What the heck was that? He felt a little tickle, and that's it. In front of him, the Lich's body clatters to the floor, completely empty. You'd think he'd be relieved, but Kittle is actually disappointed. He thought that attack was cool, and wanted to know what magic it was. He strolls over to the bones, thinking the Liches in this world are pretty weak. Dude has no idea what just happened inside his own head. But hey, a win is a win. He cleared the dungeon, and now it's time to collect the loot. He grabs the Lich's staff, remembering that it was glowing when the skeleton used his magic. A little light bulb goes off in his head. Maybe this magic stick will finally let him use magic. So into his inventory it goes, or as he says, in my pocket. Then he spots another item, the urn. He picks up the physical urn, correctly guessing it's a life vessel. He decides to take it to Rosa to get it appraised. With all his new toys gathered, he looks around, but suddenly his gamer senses start tingling. He spots a weird pattern on the wall, something he didn't notice before. A secret room? He wonders, before doing what every RPG character does. He pushes the button, and what do you know? The wall grinds open, revealing a hidden chamber. Classic. He steps inside and finds a room full of people just standing there, like mannequins. His first thought isn't about the people. It's, wow, secret rooms are real. His second thought is, okay, who are all these weirdos? He waves a hand in front of one guy's face. Hello? Anybody home? He tries it on another person, asking if anyone is still alive in there. He gets nothing. So now he's not sure what to do with a room full of human statues. He decides the best course of action is to his logic is sound for once. He'll report it to the guild and they can send someone else to deal with it. Not his problem. And so, back at the mercenary guild, Kettle strolls in with his new loot. Rosa greets him with a friendly smile, a little surprised to see him back so early. Kettle just grins back, saying he had a few things to take care of. You know, just a light afternoon of deleting an ancient evil. Rosa is confused, and Kettle explains to her about the orb and who was behind it. She just laughs it off, telling him not to joke around about something so serious. I mean, come on. A Lich, one of only 5 in the whole world, hiding out in this remote little town? Sounds like a bad joke. So to prove he's not joking, Kittle slams the Lich's giant purple urn right on her desk. That shuts her up real quick. He calmly explains that this is the Lich's life vessel and then asks if she can appraise it for him. Just another Tuesday for Kettle. And Rosa? Her brain just short circuits. She completely freezes, finally realizing this absolute madman isn't lying. That's a wrap on this recap. Hit that subscribe button to help us keep pumping out awesome content. Catch you in the next one.